That'd be hilarious.
It would.
Yeah, Psycho.
That is like, if people hated voice lines in 4, that is the one voice line I'm okay with them having. Done perfectly by both actors.
The, Bond CE? Already checked Bond CE. Yeah. Our canon. That's why we got her. We're supposed to gotten her an anniversary, but did a little.
Baba Booey.
Pretty much.
Hong Kong Fooey.
Because
There is.
with.
Go ahead. No. I'm off subject. Go ahead.
With her, Arc 3, while Arc 2 characters play as important. Hey, they can't hear you. Fucking. I know. Hi, chat. Like, comment, and subscribe.
And hit that
Also,
bell.
Yeah, hit
for
that
notification.
bell. Did you know YouTube can now dual? Finally.
Tax, alert tax.
Where you get those taxes? It's tax day. Bust out your.
I don't even have my W-2s.
Don't worry about it.
Get about
it. There's pretty much news that there's a countdown for Fallout. That there's going to be some big announcement on the season finale. There's like some timer or something on their website counting down to it.
Oh, it's gonna be. We just got a remaster on Vegas. Technically, quote unquote.
No, we haven't gotten anything for those two.
No, because no.
Yeah.
We got a new like a remaster.
I wouldn't doubt they're doing both at the same time at this point. It's like New Vegas used most of the assets of 3. So. Well, my thing was like, and I felt it in Oblivion, I was like, man, this gameplay is dated. And I was like, I don't know if you can do that for... and I can't mod. Yeah, that's the issue they're running into, is like they have to relearn it specifically, and it still doesn't play nice because of it. So, but and apparently there's like some legal stuff where Todd can't talk about mods too much, like he can't praise them or do a lot of direct stuff involving it.
That sucks.
Because he was bringing up Fallout London, and he was like the amount of work and everything, and he's like, I can't go further into it for legal reasons. Yeah.
Right.
Which I think is stupid.
Good thing Hod Toward says that he loves it.
I think London is a great mod. I think it's definitely rough, and it's very hard to run right now, thanks to the fucking updates.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't think the gameplay is going to be as smooth. And I think people will complain about that compared to 4.
Yeah.
Like, if they could fully get 4's gameplay into it, I think it's fine.
I just didn't know.
So, but any news is good news, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because Fallout 5 ain't coming until like 2035, 2036.
Gonna be good by then.
Probably not. What?
Chat.
Good night.
Hey, MHX. Hey.
Can you pull up the other two, someone?
では、前に出ます。
Hello, chat. Prophet, thank you for the 73. Miss Dumpling, thank you for the 78. Appreciate it. Deontay, thank you for the 69. Nice. Happy Friday Eve, indeed. I was just watching them rewatch the Fallout episode. Because today's was a pretty interesting one. The club looking so conspicuous. Okay, chat, I have gotten the tweet out for the live stream. You guys, do me the favor, go give that some love. And we're going to be getting started here. I realized how much closer to 999 or better on all my servants than I thought I was. Yeah, like I said, if I were to actually do it, there's probably like 2 or 3 materials I would need. And I could probably get it from like, I don't know, like Pure Prisms or something. So the only reason I haven't pulled the trigger on it is mostly just due to, again, I like operating with a lead in FGO. It makes me relatively impervious to any sort of like factors that could change. Like, let's say we get like a new treadmill at some point in the game. It's like, there you go. For what, burning? Yeah, sure. Oh, I actually don't know which one you're asking about. I'm gonna guess it's that one. But again, hello everybody. How's everyone doing today? You have indeed made it to Thursday. If I seem a little weird today, it's because I'm actually in like pretty major back pain. I can kind of move around, and it's like this is the limitation, and that's because I sat on like a heating / massage pad for like 40 minutes. So I can like turn a little bit, but ultimately if I try to be like too mobile, it's pain. So that's not even considering a pins either for me, right? And that's like, I don't want to run out in case of a pins and stuff like that. So it just is what it is. I usually err on the side of caution, but admittedly, like you, like I have an account that's just very well taken care of. So it's not like there's a pressing need usually for any one given thing. Hello, Spartan. Can I ask the last 2 songs, please? Burning, I don't know what the hell you're doing, man. Just get the actual link to the song. Okay. Old man Cat entering his Moriarty arc? I mean, I'm not that old. It's just like So part of it was like I was exercising and doing like stretches and ab workout stuff, and like that's part of it. Plus my neck from like the way I was sleeping, kind of like over the weekend with our St. Augustine trip, still was bothering me. Plus, I think in my own bed, I didn't sleep on it well. So it's like those three factors combined to be like, major back pain. And it is what it is. But because tomorrow I'm not going to be streaming with you guys, I've got to go do like a little bit of activity with the girlfriend and some of her friends. So it's like I'm trying to nurse it as best I can and not strain it more than it already is. Doomer's can officially shut the fuck up now. Unfortunately, no. And I hate to say this, but chat, I'm a little bit on the Doomer side at this point. Hear me out. I'll briefly mention this, then we won't talk about it more, because I know this does upset people. But, like, yes, there is more story. Yes, it probably means that they are going to continue in the future. But I don't know. Like, I've talked to Trubs at this at length. We've had even an argument over it, I would say. But, like, Trubs, for instance, his stance is that we are getting part 3. My stance is that this shows that they are not committing to anything. And that's what I don't like about it. Like, the literal section, the segment of new story that we did get is termed after story. So it does kind of, how should I put it? Like, make it out to be like an epilogue of sorts. And that's what I don't like about that. So it's like, I'm hoping it's just this segment. I'm hoping that's all it is. But like I've said before, the big thing that I just want Nasu to actually commit. That's really all it is. I want to see him not take this stance of, well, we're just going to do a little bit here. And I want him to actually be like, yeah, hey, we're doing an entire arc again. So I understand they're probably going to go year to year, but like I said, that's where I'm kind of a little bit more doomer on this at this point. But it's because I've watched Nasu say this stuff for 5 years, and everything Nasu has said has come to fruition. He did continue the story, but he also did continue it in the way that he claimed he was going to do, which was an after story. And that's not a good way to phrase things. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned now. So it's like, and I'll say this again. On the plus side, anti-Doomer here, I will take any continuance they will give us. I love getting more story for this game, but yeah, I'm admittedly like concerned. It's like they still have not actually shown support. So I am happy we got something, but dear Lord, the thing that we got is not a lot. So it is what it is. I'm hoping this is just a buff year. That's what I'm hoping too. I've seen a lot of people saying that this is very likely to be like, again, like an Epic of Remnant 2.0 or something. Could be the case. If it is, it is. But I really, really want them to actually recommit to the game. As you guys can see, I'm up against the time lock on an A. Not too much to do. You guys should have already gotten a digression battle done. You should have gotten basically some ascension items for Iori in the event. So not a whole lot going on. If you guys haven't already checked out the event guide that I put out, make sure you do. Wait, oh, right. I forgot. There's cats and dogs. I actually did forget that was the thing. I think I accidentally typed that. Doomer CAD will return at Avengers Doomsday. Yeah, I don't want you guys to think that I'm like Doomer because I want the game to fail or anything like that. I am pessimistic on things purely because of the actions of the developers and how they are like treating and terming things. So it's like that's where my skepticism is coming in from. But it's like literally I want them to actually reaffirm it. I want this game to continue. I just don't know that like Nasu himself does. So I'm hoping that this is just a 1-year story arc on JP. And then we end up getting like part 3 in earnest. Right? But this is not confirmation of part 3, unfortunately. At least not in my eyes. That's my issue with it. The sad part is the other possibility is also true, is that this is just a 1-year epilogue. Like, you just get this and nothing else. And it's like, well, at least we get more closure, but honest to God, I think this will just piss everyone off. At least in the end. If all they do is tie up loose ends here, I'm going to be like, what the hell? Do I think that's what they're going to do? No, but I do think the way they're going to start doing the story is instead of having major arcs anymore, I think instead they're going to start doing minor arcs. And Trubs can tell me if he thinks I'm wrong on this, but like, this is what I actually see them doing, which will be like year-long story arcs instead of like, you know, 8+ years. So we'll see. This may be, you know, anything from like smaller releases to maybe only like once or twice a year type of releases, but we'll see. But I have seen a lot of like Twitter people trying to like dunk on the Doomers. I'm going to say this outright too. The Doomers fucking deserve it. So I don't blame them, but I'm also not going to say that they're 100% proven correct at this point. The Doomers will return. If this is just an epilogue and no part 3, then what? It's an epilogue. Then there's nothing. That is the problem, I would say. And that is, I think, just about everybody's biggest concern here. Hoping this is just build up into a huge part 3. I think, unfortunately, some of our worst fears were confirmed here, and that's that, like, they don't really have a plan beyond this. I think a lot of people were hoping that, like, part of the reason for the stalling and the drawing things out was to help them build up momentum and time for a part 3. And I think we're beginning to realize now that that was not the case. They were not doing that. Like, I'm not going to say they don't have any plan for the future. Just that FGO has never been one to talk about its plans. How's it going? Mato say hey no slave is back. I did see that. I don't think I'll be watching it this season. Somehow Doomers return. Doomers will always return. At least they will always return until the game does like reaffirm its commitment. Like, or sorry, not the game, until the developers reaffirm their commitment to the game. Like Mr. 2, like the actual technically like developer side of things has, it's Type Moon that really hasn't. And that I think is the concern there. Like Nasu said he's not going to just drop the game like a bad habit. But unfortunately, I think the more Nasu just sits there and kind of moans and groans and, you know, keeps like not actually fully committing, I think the more it does hurt the game. "12 apostles to kill," yeah. I actually blame Nasu for the Doom mentality. He's not 100% responsible for it. Like, if we look back, chat, and we sit there and say, okay, like, why do people Doom? Why do people, like, want the game to fail? Why do people hate FGO? Yada, yada, yada. The reason for that is multitudinous, okay? Like, Nasu is a big chunk. Nasu has sat there and like said the game is coming to an end, all things end, like the story is going to end, yada yada yada. And he's been saying this for 5 years plus. He's been saying that he wants out. He's been saying that he needs a break, you name it. Okay, so that is part of it. The other parts are jilted ex-gacha players, right? Like that they didn't like the way the game went down for them. They didn't like how they were treated. They, for whatever reason, just want to hate on the game. And then I think there is ultimately like some people out there that they were just never fans of FGO and they just want the game to fail because it's a competitor to one of their games. So when I look at all those categories, Nasu's responsible for what I would consider to be a third. The other 2/3 are not Nasu's fault. That being said, if any of the parts are like the fault of the developer or the creator or whatever, you need to like self-examine that and say like, wait, why are we part of the problem, right? We kicked that sentence to be a hero. I'm still halfway through the first episode because it was like an hour long, so we couldn't watch it all on a lunch break. Totally jealous you have Takaru. Currently using one on paid courts per day method. Have the event castered in P1. You never know, Kenneth. You might get lucky. And there's always things like GSSRs and stuff in the future, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But Takaru is definitely a good get. You're probably fine if you have someone like Muramasa, at least to help you out. I need FGO to fail so Dokkan is the supreme #1. I mean, jokes aside, I hope you don't actually mean that, right? But yeah, like I don't understand people that just want to go around. Like, there are many things that I don't like. There are many IPs, there are many like products, there are many like foods and stuff. It's like, but you're not going to hear me just sit there constantly and shitting on them. I'm not going to be like, you know what? I really don't like this video game, and then I'm gonna go on like Twitter and say how much of that video game I don't like, and then I'm gonna go on Reddit and say how much I don't like it, and then I'm gonna like sit here every stream and talk about it. Like, I don't see the point in that. Like, you just be miserable if that's all you ever do. Like, and this is why, to an extent, it's like, y'all know I don't like the MiHoYo games and stuff. I don't like Genshin or any of that stuff, so that's why I don't talk about it more than I already kind of get forced to by chat at times. Because why? It would just make me miserable. And there's, I think, also the logic there of, it kind of gets boring. It kind of gets stale, and all you're going to do is just breed animosity if you act that way. But yeah, so again, TLDR, I'm still skeptical and don't like the way this was handled, but it is still a continuation of the story, and I'll take it. That is ultimately my take on the JP situation. Their new one already flopped, the Shadows one? Wait, what are you talking about? Have I played any other Fire Emblem game besides Three Houses? I have not. I've played other games like that, like in that exact same genre, but I can't say I've actually played another Fire Emblem game. So they wish cast FGO ending. I mean, there's a lot of people I think do. People just want other people to be miserable, I guess. I mean, I believe the phrase you're looking for is misery loves company, right? Like, yeah, I definitely think there's people like that. I don't like people like that. I've told you guys this before too. It's like, there's times that I'm angry and there's times that I'm upset, and I try not to take that out on my friends. Like, I don't understand the people that are like, oh, I'm sad, I'm upset, I want other people to feel the same way as me. That just aggravates me a little bit. It might happen, Kenneth. Play FE678. I still need to finish Three Houses. That's part of the issue there. Playing the collab is making me want to replay Samurai Remnant. I had the same feeling. It's like hearing the soundtrack for Samurai Remnant and like seeing all the characters again. Samurai Remnant is a really cool, like from a lore perspective and production perspective, it's really good. I just wish the gameplay was a little bit more fleshed out. That's really all I think it needed. I didn't even mind the style of gameplay. I thought it was an improvement over things like Extella and stuff, but I would have loved to have seen them actually go a little bit more like in depth with the mechanics of the game and maybe give the game a little bit more to do than just petting the dogs and cats. I mean, Ari is not the only unplayable from that game. Okay. I think we still need Caster for Alice. I love their growl fronts. Yeah, it's great, honestly. I will just remind you guys, don't leave this event until the end because you can't just pop apples and be done on the final day. Like there's so many like small quests and so much reading that you guys will have to do. It's gonna be very difficult for people to actually complete this all in one day. Chat, did I show you guys the Logres comp where it's just double Koyan Oberon? I think I did the waiver one and the double Koyan one. Reading? Yeah. Not sure why they didn't do a Musashi Spiritron dress. I'll straight up agree with you. I think that's a whiff on their part. Like they easily could have done that. Someone just draw out their sword? Okay, this is clearly a trailer or something. Remember seeing Oberon at least? Yeah, the waiver comp has Oberon on it. Okay. Boom, baby. Hello, I. But what about the Black Lions and the Blue Eagles, Creamy? Easily would have paid money for it. I know. Play more Fire Emblems before you crack memes. No. You can't make me. I still hope they undo the ending. Are you talking about to FGO? Again, I'm not going to get like too spoilery, but if you've read the new story, I think you'll be fine. Dang, you got her to 120? Yes. It's I think it's only the third time that I've done it. No, sorry, second time that I've done it all in one sitting. Like, I did not touch a node. I literally just did it with embers that I had saved up. Which, like I said, that's, honest to God, that's like one of the most impressive feats that I can think of. Just because it requires a lot of like pre-preparation and efficiency. The one thing I haven't done, I don't have the gold foes to actually get her 2k. So it is what it is. I like you can make her 100% charger. Yeah, we could do that again if you guys want. Well, I guess I would have to back up. Fake Saba enthusiast? Listen. Even if I started... Well, okay, so this is technically not true. I guess I theoretically could have gone and sat on the Saber raid in order to farm out enough, like... enough of the gold foes for it. I just... Oh, no, wait, no. Yeah, we didn't even get gold foes. It was the faux paw prints for cards. So, no, yeah, it still doesn't matter. So pretty much from the time that Logres was revealed to like now, you cannot have gotten enough gold foes. Would you want Fate to become a mainstream gacha game? What do you mean? It is. This is actually gonna like trigger some people, I think, in chat, but FGO is still a mainstream gacha game. And if you don't think so, I don't know what to tell you. Katana, thank you for the 25. Appreciate it. How you doing? If Cat didn't 120 her instantly, I would have shook my head. This is where like I can't win, right? Like yeah, I do feel confident in saying that in the sense that basically without FGO, you don't have any of your current mainstream gacha games. Which part would trigger people? The mainstream part? Yes. Not too bad except for the migraine. Sorry to hear it. Feel free to take it easy or turn me down. Or close your eyes. It requires serious ember hurting, right? It's not Genshin style, it's clearly not mainstream. Well, I think like my stance here is that FGO is still very popular. FGO still makes a ton of money. and you quite literally don't have Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Nikke, or any of these other games if FGO doesn't come first. So, do I consider it mainstream? Yes. Yes, I do. Is it like at its peak? Is it as popular as it ever was? No, I think that is a fair criticism of the game. How's date yesterday? It was really good. We had some really awesome sushi. I think we can double check, but I think I posted at least the food pictures and food posting for you guys. We also went to a like Japanese like confectionery place for dessert, and it was really good. I had the taro ube mochi cookie, and it was so good. People use fate terms in their gotcha game. For example, summon. Yeah, summoning. And like still to this day, like people will call things like noble phantasming and stuff. What am I doing? I'm looking for a 5-star that needs to be bonded. Who do I want to bond? Who do I want to bond? Alice, get in there. At least in the back line. More games should allow grailing. Grailing, I can say, so this is going to sound incredibly weird. FGO didn't come up with grailing. At least, obviously, we came up with the term grailing and the use of grails, but the concept of making like your favorite character special or better is not something that FGO came up with. That predated FGO. I think FGO may have been the first to allow it to be like the level increase. That I don't know. I'd have to double check. So Mad, the Bond C doesn't work on Logres? It makes sense. Palingenesis, is that an FGO term? Technically no, if I remember correct. Let me double check. Yes. Palingenesis is the concept of rebirth or recreation used in various contexts in philosophy, theology, politics, and biology. Its meaning stems from Greek. So no, FGO did not create that term. It is an actual word. Like I said, I had to double check it because I didn't remember, but yeah. I feel like I've looked that one up before. FGO is the number one gotcha game multiple times a year. Yeah, I mean, let's be real here, right? Like, I don't think anyone would argue that FGO is the biggest gotcha game. It's not. Like, it was for a good, like, probably like 5-year span, but I think pretty much since Genshin came out, it has not been the biggest gotcha game. That being said, I also don't think it's like a problem. I think people do get way too obsessed with like rankings and stuff. And really all that matters is that FGO is popular and profitable. And that's how you know the game will continue. I remember it from philosophy class, yeah. – FGO does make it so your unit can stand out amongst other people that do have the same unit. I do agree with that. I feel like they can still do more, though. Genshin decided to implement the worst possible grayling system. You need to get USOs of a unit to get the material. I mean, let's be honest. Doubling up Oberon and Waver skill 1 with Logres feels so dirty. The servant is like Fent. Yes. I mean, you guys can see this is just a double Koyanskaya with Atlas comp. And this comp just actually like is kind of nasty. Like, it's kind of ridiculous that you repop Logres's kit twice on turn 1. We're getting part 3. And some people would contend, yes, we are. I'm going to say the story is continuing. Whether or not it is part 3, I think is up to your deliberation. A store closed for FGO? I don't know what that means. Like, you mean like a physical location that specialized in FGO stuff? And see, then, like, the fact that you get to double up the Koyanskaya skills is also just ridiculous. Chat, this is... And this is the best way I can describe it. I'll probably mention as we're recording the video for her tonight, but, like, this is quad support. I take 2 Koyanskayas. I use all their skills. On turn 2, I use all of their damage skills again. So it's quad support. It's great. Are we talking about the place that closed for the finale's release? Oh, okay. That's the earnings. Yeah, I mean, I think all of this is from like Sensor Tower, right? My prediction is that next year Honkai Star Rail probably falls down significantly. Love and Deep Space takes over. And FGO actually, like, I actually think FGO will fall some. But we'll see. Honestly, I'm surprised Uma Musume is not higher. Because it had a very strong, like overseas shipping. How is her damage in the NP looping dock? I don't care about that dock because it's terrible. I talked to you guys about actual numbers, so we'll talk about that. Yeah, if chat wants to see the waiver comp again, I'll try to show it here. Unfortunately, the NP looping document has been... I think it's been relatively worthless for years now. Mostly because the way it's conducted, it tries to be very logical, but it's not. And the ownership of it has changed hands 3 times in recent memory. So I don't think it's worthwhile at this point. I'd rather have the actual data. Love and Deep Space been winning already, no? That I don't know. I think that's showing the annual profit from it. Because it's certainly not lifetime. Sorry, Chad. I'm just trying to make sure I got this. FGO probably have a true fall off this year. It really depends. Depends on how much they want to support the game, but I do think that sort of potential is unfortunately possible. Okay, sorry, because I'm still getting used to these comps. I have to actually look at the skill order here. Whee! On ryegrass and the donation drives for some of the farms. I mean, I doubt that, to be honest. Like, don't get me wrong, that sounds like a really cool and fun thing, but I really doubt that. Like, I'm sure that was extra that Uma Musume fans just felt compelled to do. But people are still going to spend on the gacha what they want to spend on the gacha. There doesn't need to be a fallout. I think there will naturally be some, and the only way that there wouldn't be is if the game quote unquote pops off this next year, right? And we've talked about that before. I don't think this is a doomer thing to say, but it's like some people will quit the game with the conclusion of part 2. That's just the game's been running for that long. Some people are going to do that. Double Logres Ogre? Interesting. I don't think I've tried that one, but it does make sense. Swap one Logres for BB or Bunny, and let Olga crit anything down. So wait. You'd have to walk me through how that one goes. People will probably naturally leave this year. Yeah, and like the good side is, and the reason why I say this isn't doomer, right? One, that's realistic. I think that's just naturally going to happen. And two, I think with Strange Fate airing, with other like stuff kind of falling into place, I think you're going to see new players come to FGO as well, unless again they do like shit the bad. If that's the case, then so be it. There's not a whole lot that can be done. Let's see if anybody else has the Logres up. SMH. Look at all these non-120 Logreses. Okay, Hardest has a 114. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here, guys. It's like you guys didn't prepare for the unit that you didn't know was coming. I'm out of grails. That's actually impressive on JP. I feel like at this point, most people are not out of grails. Like, even for me, with all the saber faces, obviously I could use all of mine. The problem is, like, I simply just don't have the embers to use all of mine. Man, I'm just looking for another 120. Cat, who are you talking to? No one's here but you. Again? That's not what I wanted, but okay. Wait, hold on. And oh my god, fingers. I just want to press the saber button. Thank you. I guess we go with this one. So Drask said Olga, and then you BB card lock or Bunny. Can't believe we got a part 3 that soon. See, that's the thing. Again, chat, unfortunately, I'm going to have to be the pessimist here and say we didn't. I see a lot of people calling it part 3, but there is not a confirmation of that. And that's why I'm trying to say it, is just to, like, as much as I will get on to the Doomers for being assholes and, like, just trying to, like, slide the game at every turn, I'm also not going to, like, allow Sunshine Pumpers to sit there and claim, oh, it's part 3, the game is saved, yada, yada, yada. I think both are, like, unfortunately really toxic for the community. So I hope they come out and actually say that. Like, I hope they, like, commit to, like, hey, here's our next arc. I just, until they do, I don't know. What am I doing? I'm looking for BB Summer, who's a moon cancer. My brain was just incapable of finding BB Summer for a second there. But it, like, and I just want to say this, I'm also not going off on people for calling it part 3. I'm just more or less talking about why I don't feel like we should call it that. So this is nothing personal. There we go. Okay, Drask, you're walking me through this, right? It's part 2 Redux. I mean, like, it is what it is. I'm back, chat reconnected. Yeah, so how do I do this? Like, I could try to figure this out, but it would take me quite a bit of time just due to Olga's kit already being clunky as well. Got her in one single after I woke up. Nice. Better to call it prologue to part 3 of Epic Remnant. I'm just gonna call it how the devs are calling it right now, which is it's an after story. I think so too, Arzus, but we'll see. And the cooldowns last? You mean Logres skill 3 last? Wait, are you talking about Olga S2, S3, S1? Have you seen videos of Lord Logres being maxed out? What do you mean? Okay, so I'm confused. So you're saying basically these two on Olga, then this, then swap for BB. Is that what I'm understanding? Was there a revenue drop off after Solomon? You mean like Temple of Time or the unit release? Chat's gonna have to keep getting more specific. The second casts of Olga skills, you don't use the first skill into wave 3, and you change a Logres on wave 2. Huh? I'm just turn 1. What do I do? That's what I'm focused on right now. It sounds like IKEA comp directions. No, it's just like I'm asking a specific thing and I'm not getting a specific answer. So that's why I'm getting pedantic here because I'm trying to like make sure that I don't fudge this. Okay, technically I don't need those. Okay. I'm going to assume I needed 2 busters there. Whoops. You think FGO will animate Lost Belt now since part 2 is over? Chat's not gonna like this answer, but no, I don't, because we still don't have like Strange Fake is just now airing. Like maybe, but it sounds like we still have that. We still have the Mahoyo movie. Like I don't know. Wait, hold on. Did I forget? Oh, right. It's only her extra attack that does. Wait, okay. No, I'm just actually confused then. What the hell am I doing wrong here? Use S2 and S3 again then? Okay. I mean, shouldn't I go ahead and swap for BB then? Because that's the only way these cards are going to get locked in. No, because you save S1. Huh? That's literally not what I asked. Okay. Yeah, I mean if we're gonna do that, then sure. Okay, so you need a double extra attack buff. Yeah, unfortunately, I would say that this is not terribly strong, honestly. Because unfortunately, while you can crit things, right? Like, here's your issue, chat. Extra attack can't crit. This is actually not that strong. So like that's my complaint here. Like this definitely works, but it's not gonna work as much as like people would claim it. It's slower than normal loop too. I mean, I'm gonna be real with you. Anything Logres involving will probably be slower than a normal loop. Your Olga's not strong enough for it? No, I don't think that's the issue. You could 120 this Olga. This Olga would not be able to like do this in a 90 plus node. Sorry, not a 90 plus plus node is what I should have said. Yeah. Like there's only so much that this can be stretched. So, and here's what I'm contending is the assertion that this quote can crit down anything. Like the issue is if you're relying on the extra attack to do all of your body of work, it's just not. Like it's definitely a fun comp to do, but only if you know that it can. Problem is you didn't grail BB. Did true. Now, someone was saying that there's also Lord Logres, Ellie Lancer, and Miss Crane. I'm not sure how that would get the most out of Lord Logres, to be honest. Olga pinned one helps too. That would. I agree. Although I'd have to double check. I actually don't know what I have on my Olga. That could be on me. I have a pin 2 and 5. So, yeah, I mean, I could switch it if I was going to do like purely that. Logres Kayan is 300% buster up. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you guys what the statistically strongest composition is. If there's somebody doing like slingshot shenanigans or something, that I don't know. That depends. Is the strongest of the notice man attribute. Yeah, I'm not going to go into like man attribute niche. I'm going to say the statistically strongest comp outside of that like niche is basically Koyan, Lord Logres, Waver, Oberon. Oh. Oh, sorry. Just stretching, chat. They need to play Redline with MF Ghost, right? Okay. This waiver overcharge thing makes Logres' NP damage buff be 50%. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting synergy. It's just kind of stupid. Plus, again, keep in mind, chat, like, the reason that Lord Logres is kind of hacks. If we look at Lord Logres' stats, just straight up, and again, we'll talk about this a little bit more in the video, but if we look at it straight up, it's actually not, like, super impressive. You're not going to be like, oh my god, this is the strongest unit in the game. It's the kit. It's literally that she is going to have just a strong kit on her own and allow other units to get their kit back. That's not normally a thing. Like, if you look at, say, for instance, like, Koyan Sky of Light, right? Koyan Sky of Light gives -2 turns of charge on a skill to one unit. Logres does that to everyone. That's kind of nutty. And so you have this potential capability that we have not had before, where all of a sudden this unit has the capability for the supports to get their skills back. That's really weird. We haven't really had that before now. And that's honestly kind of hilarious. Like, the only times that we've had that before were when, like, basically your main carry was a support. So, like, you were using a Koyan Sky of Light, a Koyan Sky of Darkness, an Oberon, or someone like that as the primary damage dealer, and then surrounding them with Koyan Skies of Light. Okay. I'll be honest, I'm gonna unfavorite this song because I swear it comes on every single day in the playlist. And, like, it's a good song, but I've overheard it. Meanwhile, this is another song that has existed in my playlist that I feel like I have not heard in forever. Logres stacking 100% attack on her own attack. That's also the least available damage on Buster Loop. Attack has come back into favor, though, at least, thanks to Waver rejoining the ranks. That's... Again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, chat, do you guys remember when Waver got the buff to his first skill? And I said it was like an actual power shift in the game. It was a big deal and people were underestimating it. Here we are. Like, I don't know why people thought it wasn't going to be. Obviously, it's not like Waver's buff doesn't benefit every unit in the game. But what it does is it breaks up the, like, ironclad meta that we had for Buster and now starts shifting it to, hey, there's multiple options, which, to be fair, is how Arts has always been and how quite literally Quick had become thanks to Summer Tiamat. So we're at that point. It's like, oh, wow, all of a sudden, Buster now actually has more options. Now you can morph it into other things, which is really, really nice. I really like that. I feel like these systems work best when there are multiple solutions and not just you have to have this one unit or everything falls apart. I saw someone say she looks like the devs took a fan-made servant for Reddit. Yeah, you're not wrong. Can't change stupid even after 10 years. That's true. Definitely not just another Buster AoE Saber, per se. I mean, I was originally hoping that she was going to be single target. Because if you actually look at the quote-unquote ability that she uses as her Noble Phantasm in the Grand Caster duel, it is a single target attack. So I was hoping that it was going to be like, oh, well, this is like a single target version of her. And she basically just like pinhole blasts like somebody out of existence. But at least that would have made her different. But yeah, they found a way to make her different. So it is what it is. You could also use double Logres as a makeshift Koyan in the Grand Saber farm for skill resets. Right, yeah. And technically, that's like, she's not the only person that can do that. But in combination with the rest of her kit, it's really nice. Okay. Let's start building the thing here for talking about this. Otherwise, I'm just going to end up giving everything away. All of my major points, because chat's doing a good job of debating me. Yeah, sadly, I actually feel like this one could be a little bit stronger, but it is what it is. I love like so just FYI chat. I love that this is like unlimited blade works, but it's like it's all Excalibur. Always has been. Emiya can go out there and can fake any sword, and Arturi is just like, hey yo, let me grab another Excalibur out of the back. Unlimited Excalibur works, yes. Hmm. Sorry, I hadn't read that one yet. Excalibur, yeah. Just a second, chat. Deleting some text messages. Okay. My eyesight is crap. You can usually the way you can tell is the like right there, the like guard off the hilt. Hi, chat. Y'all ready to talk for like the next hour? Yeah. Holy spreadsheet? Yeah, I told you guys I was going to give you the actual data. Finally, some real numbers. Exactly. Okay. Let's do it tomorrow. I'm not going to be here tomorrow, so no. Background? I haven't been doing the background for a bit. I also drank the last of my eggnog, chat. Mookie needs a buff, yeah. I just want to say that I really like that, like, this image is just up here in the corner menacingly, like. It's egg gone now, yes. Every AoE Saber needs a buff at this point. Like I've been saying before, because I saw a lot of people being like, don't you feel like this is unfair? They've made her too strong, and now every unit needs a buff. And I'm like, no. Like we literally don't get to have this argument if you weren't pointing this out when Salter got the ability to Black Grail loop over 2 years ago. If you weren't calling for every AoE Saber to get a buff then, you don't get to complain now. Because Salter absolutely destroyed everyone. I was, so I get to complain. Okay. But yeah, that is kind of my point. It's like, quite literally, Salter is what really pushed the boundary forward. And yeah, I think it's like, I'm okay with Salter being strong, but like, holy crap, they need to actually buff some of the 5 stars. I won't because I'm biased. When is Brock getting charged? Well, don't you understand, Burning? Wait, oh my god, now that you said Brock, I cannot think of his name. Fuck. Drill Man. Fergus. Like my brain, it literally overwrote my brain. I knew exactly who you were talking about. Fergus just has the rare ability that he can 100% charge, just like Lord Logres, but it's only 3 times a day. Okay? But you can still do it 3 times every day. So for at least 1 node a day, Fergus is as good as Lord Logres in terms of self-charge. I don't like your I know. Okay. That's just the difference there. It's the pay to win difference. The 5-star can do it with no restrictions. The 3-star can only do it 3 times a day. Okay. It feels like a 5-year-old made up powers on the fly. Listen, stop insulting 5-year-old me, okay? I don't understand this. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I don't know if Okeist is lurking somewhere in the distance. There he is. We'll go ahead and get started here. I'll count us down. Hey guys, my name's Kadroth, and today we're going to be talking to you about Lord Logres, our newest New Year's unit, another AoE Buster Saber, and another Saber face. Literally a almost perfected version of Artoria is the way to think about it. She is the ideal form of her. So you definitely have a lot to look forward to here. And we're going to talk about everything there is to consider with this unit and why you guys, frankly, should consider rolling for her. I know for a lot of you guys, you probably already have really, really good AoE sabers, and you're thinking like, man, you know, CAD, what's the point? Why do I need yet another one? Well, unfortunately, you should probably consider this because Lord Logres does a lot of good stuff for the party, not just for herself. And we're going to break all of that down for you, try to talk to you guys about possibilities, try to talk to you guys about kind of the compositions that you can use her in. And we're going to kind of just go over both not only her strong points, but also her weak points and things that you should maybe consider whenever you're going to go ahead and use her. So to start out with, again, she is our New Year's unit, so she is a limited unit. Obviously, you can roll her right now while the banner's up, but who knows when the next time she'll come available is, especially with the whole Grand Duels being over on JP. Now we don't know how often we'll get banners here. We may see them as we move into the next arc of FGO's future, potentially like changing the way they handle banners again. We've had a long period here where every single banner has been available pretty much every year. And in the last year, especially multiple times in the case of a year. But I think going forward, we should maybe not expect it to be that frequent. So we'll just have to kind of see. Either way, I think Lord Logres is definitely a head-turning sort of unit. So let's start out by going over the stats and the kit and the Noble Phantasm, and then we'll start breaking down actual compositions, numbers, you name it. So right off the bat here, you guys can see Lord Logres has about 12.7k attack. It's actually a really good attack number. It's much, much better than her normal, like, original forms version. So definitely a powerful number, to say the least. HP value, on the other hand, is not like her older version, which is going to have only about 13.6k. This would be a concern, except for her third skill, which will make it much less of a concern. So realistically speaking, it's just kind of like they flip-flopped the HP and attack stat and decided, let's make a much more offensive version. She is star attribute, which is definitely another really interesting consideration for lore purposes there. But not to go too deep into that, it's definitely going to help her out in the damage department too, because star, as you guys know, will just kind of not have like too many things that it's going to do less damage against. On top of that, just kind of looking at the overall kind of stat sheet here for her, she has 99 star absorption. This is pretty much right in the middle, maybe a little bit less than we would like. Star generation of 10.2%. Again, I don't think your star generation or star absorption here is going to be a big deal, as with a lot of Buster comps, we're kind of flooded with stars. Her NP charge attack rate's about 0.58. You're probably not going to care unless you get outside the bounds of her skill durations, because Lord Logres has some pretty insane charge capability. Same thing with her MP charge defense being the standard 3%. Not too much of a concern there. Death rate at 17.5% is a little bit less than average, so she's not exactly susceptible to death, but absolutely could be death still by the AI due to the way that it has a tendency to calculate things. Her alignment is lawful good. Her gender is female. Her traits are Arthur, Artoria face, Defender, Dragon, Anima Elish Nullification, Humanoid, Sovereign, aka King, Loved One, Riding, Roundtable Knight, Servant, and 7 Knight Servant. So there's a ton of traits here, especially the return of the Dragon trait that has kind of been missing from the Castoria variants is now back, as well as the addition of the Anima Elish Nullification with her being star attribute. She has a gorilla deck here, as we like to call it, which is the triple buster deck. This is really just going to help her get a ton of firepower out of there. Unlike her original form with having Dragon Core and having the ability to change all of her cards to buster, Artoria is just going to have a triple buster deck and be able to kind of just pop off with that, but still have the single quick and arts card there for forming mighty chains and the like. Her hit counts are all above average, with only the extra attack being average. So everything here is just strong and kind of what we would hope for. Though, admittedly, with the NP charge rate there, maybe the card performance on the Quick and Arts won't be as good. Still not too big of a concern. Now we get to the kit, and this is where things are going to get a little bit hairy, so try to pay attention and stay with me. So your first skill here, Finis Drakon, is going to be a really interesting charge skill. Unlike most other charge skills, and again, her original form's capability to just pop it and have the charge right away, this is going to be a charge per turn skill. She's going to get a delayed action. And that is both a strength here due to the amount of charge at it being up to 50%, but also potentially a weakness because you're not going to get it again right away when you need it. There is going to be a delayed effect here. This does mean that you're a little bit susceptible to things like buff removal or, again, buff blocking, that sort of thing. But wait, there's a little bit more here. As you guys can see, this skill will also grant debuff immunity 1 time over 5 turns and buff removal resistance 1 time over 5 turns. So this skill has the protections necessary baked into itself to stop the enemy from removing her ability to charge herself. So it's really, really good in regards to that. Again, the fact that the duration on each of these is 5 turns as well is kind of nutty, given that it's just a really high uptime and a long period of time to have it. So yeah, you're going to be getting 50% charge per turn for 5 turns. This is just Artoria kind of coming in and saying, hey, I am my own system. I'm going to automate the ability kind of to charge back without much help from anybody. From there, she's going to get a debuff regeneration for 5 turns that's treated as a buff that's going to just deal 1,000 damage to herself every turn for 5 turns. This does mean if you're trying to use her in more of a challenge context, especially if you're pairing it up with things like Black Grail, you're going to want to take some kind of sustain to help keep her alive. That is going to be something that you'll have to pay attention to. But ultimately, it's not crazy. You are going to want to lure this skill both for the flat 50% charge and the flat 100% buff removal resistance, which will prevent buffs from being removed entirely. And also because cooldowns are going to be a huge consideration with Lord Logres. This is going to be a lot of talking that we're going to do over the course of the analysis for the servant. Is we're going to focus a lot on skill cooldowns. I'm going to talk to you guys about it, but keep in mind the first skill here is an 8-turn cooldown, even when it's Lord. That does not, however, mean that you won't get back to it. Her second skill is going to be Rex Mirar. This is basically going to give her the party attack for 3 turns of only 20%. That's nothing too crazy there. It's just kind of nice. It's a very good charisma buff, but it's also going to increase the party's critical damage for 3 turns by 30%. I've seen a lot of people talking about how this is not a huge crit buff and that it's not a big deal. And that's definitely true to an extent, but when you consider this from the frame of mind that this is probably just a roided out charisma buff, it's kind of disgustingly good. So 30% crit damage, and this is going to be on a 6-turn cooldown, which just means that, yeah, you will be able to get back to this and relatively fast too. Means that you're going to just be kind of stacking this in the party. It's going to be really, really nice. There's also going to be crit chance resistance of 30%, which does mean that a Lord Logres comp, even when it is getting hit, is going to be less likely to get crit. Again, 30% crit chance resistance is enough to prevent most units in the game from critting you unless they either have a very high natural crit modifier or are stacking crit chance buffs themselves. So, like I said, this is actually just really, really nice for stopping you from getting crit. And if that wasn't enough, it's just a 50 crit star bomb. Just right there. Just on demand. Boom, 50 crit stars. So, yeah, just kind of nuts, honestly. Like the sheer amount of stars floating around in Buster compositions at this point is just kind of ridiculous. Quick is dead somewhere in a ditch from like its major utility being kind of taken away. That just is what it is. It doesn't mean that Quick's actually dead. You guys can obviously still use it very effectively, but I look at stuff like this and I just go like, devs, what are you doing at times? So now we get to the third skill, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this one. You guys, if you can speak Welsh, feel free to go for it. But basically, this is miniature Oberon / Koyanskaya merged into one skill with none of the demerits of either of them. Well, not none of them, some of them, but still. Let's take a look. So it's going to grant herself anti-purge defense for 2 attacks, 3 turns. Unfortunately, this does mean, since anti-purge defense is a unique buff, that you're not going to be able to stack this with like Castoria, for instance. So if you're trying to like mix this into like some sort of immortal comp or something, be a little bit careful about that. There's not a lot you can do about it. But this is still a hard defensive skill. It's going to make it very difficult for somebody to actually kill Lord Logres before she can get her damage out. And then we have a 50% buster up for 3 turns on this skill. That's just kind of ridiculous right there. Obviously, we have Artoria who has 50% buster up, but her duration is 1 turn. That's actually one of the big demerits that she has. So already right here, they just fixed one of the major issues that Artoria has by giving a multi-turn duration. And it's not limited by number of times or anything like that. From here, we get the Koyanskaya effect of reducing cooldown by 2. However, in Koyanskaya's case, she targets someone. In Lord Logres' case, this is given to everybody, including Lord Logres, and it will impact this own skill's cooldown. So, just kind of disgusting when you start to think about that in terms of potential applications. And that's why I said we're going to do a lot of cooldown reduction discussion today. This is going to impact, again, not only her, but also anybody else you bring along her. So that makes her fit very well into multiple damage dealer setups. Or, heaven forbid, you just pair her in a traditional like single unit with like double or triple support loadout. This means you're gonna get back to the support skills. So that means Koyanskaya's popping their buster skill a second time on someone. That means Waver popping his skill 1 multiple times. That means Oberon popping his skill 1 multiple times. You start to think about the practical applications of this and you realize, holy crap, that's just disgustingly good for damage amplification. So this is where we start getting into funny numbers and starting to look at like, you know, actual like buff caps and things like that, because this is going to start enabling that sort of thing. And it's kind of ridiculous. From here, though, we do have one downside, and that's going to be that it has the 500% chance to grant a self-delayed debuff for 3 turns that is treated as a buff, so you can't just get get around it, and ignores debuff resistance and sort of immunity here. So basically, it is a demerit, even though it's treated as a buff. And what it's going to do is it's going to grant the effects below after 3 turns, which is that it will have a 500% chance to grant them the Dream of Lake Waters debuff for an amount of turns where N is based on skill level. So if you don't level this skill, you're going to hate yourself, because this means that this is going to put Artoria to sleep after 3 turns for up to 6 turns. You don't want that. If you lore this skill, which you absolutely should do, it will only put Artoria to sleep for 2 turns. Why does that matter, you say? Because unlike Oberon's skill 3, this isn't permanent. This one will wear off, and therefore you can unbrick Lord Logres, as opposed to Oberon brick units that you can't, and they are just actually dead in the water and somebody that you're just going to have to deal with it. Yeah, she just takes a nap, kind of a little siesta there in the middle of your team composition. After 3 turns, she's like, I overexerted myself. I'm going to take a nap for 2 turns, and then I'll come back and we can do this all again. So that is an interesting thing to consider here, is that, yes, this is not a permanent sleep debuff. It is unremovable, unpreventable in the same ways that Oberon's is, but unlike Oberon's, it has an actual term limitation and therefore can be kind of gotten around. You just don't want to die within the 2 turns that she's maybe asleep. And you can see it says, similar to stun, unlike stun, this status will ignore debuff resistance and buff immunity, and the affected target would be unable to be selected as a sacrifice for someone like, say, Chen Gong, or to be able to change them out of the party during that time. So you can't just get rid of the unit. They're kind of just stuck there, so it is a little bit of a problem in that regard. What's another consideration here? Well, this cooldown, even if it's lowered, is at 10 turns. That's pretty rough. But what if I told you you can double pop this skill depending on the composition? And now you start to realize, oh god, we're getting into funny things in FGO. So, yeah, even a 10-turn cooldown is no longer safe when we start looking at that. And if you guys are familiar with, say, Ace/Tonalico, this is nothing new, actually, in the game. But now we're seeing somebody that's able to do it kind of under their own power, but also still give other people cooldown reduction, which is kind of absurd. Let's take a break from the kit. Let's start looking at the passive skills here. Magic Resistance A for just 20 additional debuff resistance. Riding A to make that singular quick card 10% better. And Knighthood Confirmant that grants a self on activate buff for guts. That whenever a party's gut status is activated except on Lord Logres, it will increase the target's guts recovery amount by 100% for one time. And increase the target's attack by 20% for 3 turns. So, let's say you had like King Hassan on the party and he had his guts popped. Boom, there you go. He's going to get double the recovery amount from that and literally get 20% extra attack up. That's just kind of dumb when you start thinking about that. But yeah, a whole lot of stuff there. And then a unique passive that at the moment does nothing, which is just called the Idle King. I guess this is similar to the like High Servant thing where it obviously has lore implications, but nothing too much just yet. Now, talking about the append skills here, obviously there's a lot to consider. The thing is, normally, traditionally, we'd tell you like, hey, mana loading's a really big deal, especially on certain buster units, but for Lord Logres, I'm gonna be real with you. You don't really care about mana loading too much. You might if you have the spare coins and you feel like it would fit into a particular composition where you had 30% charge from like a Merlin or a Coin Sky of Dark ready and available. But otherwise, let's be honest, you're gonna go with the 5th append here first. This one is the big one, the skill reloading. You want to max this out. This is going to literally reduce all of Lord Logres' skill cooldowns by 1 for the first use. So start going back and start looking at everything and considering the fact that the 3rd skill already reduces party cooldowns by 2. That means you can take every single one of these, and if you combine the 5th append with that 3rd skill, you can subtract 3 cooldown ranks from this. So that means your first skill becomes at max rank instead of 8, 5. Your second skill becomes instead of 6, 3, and your 3rd skill becomes instead of 10, 7. And you start looking at that and you start thinking about things, you start going, oh, wait, I can work with this. And you realize the actual potential. Now, with regards to something like the 4th append, obviously extra crit damage can be nice. Obviously extra attack finesse can be good as well if you see yourself having to card because you maybe don't have a higher NP level of Lord Logres, or it's just maybe you throwing her into a node that's not optimized for her. Yeah, there's obviously some potential benefits there. But the 3rd append is also anti-berserker attack damage aptitude, as if you needed even more reason to get coins for this unit. So yeah, pretty much every append here is good. 5th append easily stands out as the best. The others, it really just comes down to how you see yourself using her and what you feel like your priority is. Taking a look at her Noble Phantasm, it is not just Excalibur anymore. It is Excalibur Excelsius, and thus the Sword of Promised Victory. This is Excalibur on steroids. It's going to be a 5-hit AoE buster anti-fortress Noble Phantasm. It's going to ignore invincibility for 1 turn, activating before damage. So already just nice in that regard. It's going to deal damage to all enemies, and then it's going to deal super effective damage to any enemy that is threat to humanity. This is a niche that largely Buster did not touch, and Kidu basically was your go-to in that regard, but otherwise nobody else kind of really dealt too much in that. So kind of just disgusting for this sort of thing. On top of that, it's going to increase the party's attack by 20% for 3 turns, because why not? So as you keep looping Lord Logres and just kind of firing off Noble Phantasms, you're going to just keep stacking this effect. It's also going to charge the party's NP gauge by 20%. So not just Artoria herself getting the 20% charge, but now the entire party getting it. The downside to this effect is because it's not related to the overcharge, it does not scale. So some of the wonky, hilarious overcharge things you can do with other saber faces, due to them getting charge after their noble phantasm, you can't pull off with Lord Logres. That being said, you don't care. You're getting 50% charge per turn at minimum. So it already is kind of a hilarious thing that will stack with that. So when you consider firing off a Noble Phantasm and then getting 50% charge, you're basically getting 70% right there just from that. From here, she'll also overcharge the party's NP by 1 stage for 1 time over 3 turns. So yes, again, you could use her in an Immortal / Invincible comp, because even though she will put herself to sleep for 2 turns, it's not the end of the world, and she is going to at least allow other units to get overcharged from that, so there is another little bit of potential there. On top of that, she herself can provide a little bit of her own sustain, kind of making up for the HP demerit that she has in her kit, as well as things like Black Grail, because she does have the ability to recover the party's HP by 2,000. Yeah, and if you thought we were done, we're not, because now we have to look at the overcharge effect. It's going to increase her own NP damage for 1 turn, also activating first, by 20%. What's significant about this? It's just a 1 turn duration, it's NP damage up. It's good, but it's nothing great, right, Cad? Well, remember, we also have the overcharge effect. We also have other units like Waver now that can confer overcharge in a Buster composition. And you start looking at this and you start going, oh. Because the fact that this scales by 10% per rank, yeah, you can get up to like 50 and 60% overcharge. It's not that crazy actually to happen. So, yeah, kind of disgusting and nutty. And then you consider combining all of that with Oberon, and you start just laughing because you're like, they can't keep doing this, right? Well, they did. Okay, so with that, now we've talked about the actual raw stats, and now let's start talking about certain considerations. So right off the bat, we have a bunch of different sort of single Logres combinations that we have on screen here that you guys can see. These compositions will work. You'll get a lot of damage out of them. You'll be able to kind of mix and match different support setups with it, including just a double Koyanskaya with Atlas setup that actually does ridiculous kind of amounts of damage for what it is, because that particular composition will allow you to double pop the Koyanskaya Buster Up and Man attribute skills there, kind of making it into a quad support instead of double support type of setup. So yeah, there's some really, really fun and disgustingly powerful potential here out of Lord Logres. So let's kind of talk about self-buff only damage numbers. This is Lord Logres only under her own power in a neutral environment. This does not include anything in the realm of again, sort of support buffs or mystic codes, craft essences, you name it. So pure neutral, purely her own skills. You guys can see NP1 only about 30k, definitely strong, but not like crazy strong. Threat to humanity, super effective niche at 200% though. That's kind of good, actually. That's really what. So you start looking at that and you start going like, man, that's just powerful. Now we can start to look at certain scenarios. So on screen, we have our first scenario, and this is something to consider. This is Lord Logres with her 5th append, 2 times Koyanskaya of Lights, a level 100 Black Grail, and basically Atlas. So in this scenario, this is basically going to result in, as I mentioned before, kind of the like quad support comp. This is technically not her best damage dealing composition. It'd be pretty nasty if it's man attribute or threat to humanity, or potentially both. But like the idea here is, again, that you can get some decent damage. But just to show you guys what we're looking at here, basically, this is going to end up being your numbers. So already NP1 here is showing pretty decent stuff. This is just neutral numbers. So again, we're not making like this a Lancer or someone that Logres would be effective against. But this is including now the Black Grail, the Mystic Code, the support buffs and all of that. And you guys can see you get quite a bit of scalability there without even an Oberon or something like that in here. You get a pretty significant spike by wave 3. And you definitely get some insane potential against the man attribute, threat, niche, and both. And then NP2 is already going to be a pretty stellar jump in terms of raw power. So getting extra MP levels on Lord Logres, not required, but certainly going to result in a lot of extra firepower there. And there is the potential with a Koyanskaya to get even more capability by allowing you to kind of front load the buff. So the difference here is without the 5th append on a Koyanskaya of Light, you can get the Koyanskaya skills back for wave 3. With it, you can get it back on wave 2. This means that it's really going to shore up that second wave of damage. And it just means the only thing you got to watch out for is like turn 1. So how does this work? Well, to give you guys an idea, you do need, basically, depending on what appends you have, you need to care about skill order a lot or just a little. Personally, I'm going to say if you already have the coins to unlock, say like the 5th append on Koyanskaya, go ahead and lure it just so you don't have to worry about skill orders at all. Otherwise, you might accidentally press a skill out of order and end up going like, oh crap, what have I done? But the gist of this is that by having the 5th append on the Koyanskaya of Lights, you're going to get back to, as we mentioned, that 2nd and 3rd skill. That's going to allow you that. That's why we're saying have it at rank 6 so that you at least get the 5th append effect for the 2nd and 3rd skill on the Koyanskaya of Light. Now, as I mentioned before, for a lot of these, we're going to be depending on Logres to have her own 5th append in play. But the idea behind this is, again, we're going to be using Atlas Mystic Code for cooldown reduction, Lord Logres for party-wide cooldown reduction, and the double Koyanskaya is to give cooldown reduction to Lord Logres as well. And the way this is going to work is that you're going to want to pop the Koyanskaya 2nd and 3rd skills on Lord Logres. Then you're going to want to pop all of Lord Logres' skills. Then you're going to want to pop the skill 1 on both Koyanskayas of Light on Lord Logres, and then finally the Atlas skill cooldown reduction on Lord Logres. The effect that this will have will be that this will get you back to both the skill 2 and skill 1 on Lord Logres in turn 1. You will already have doubled up Lord Logres' first 2 skills in the first turn. This means that because you've doubled up on the 2nd skill, not only do you have a ridiculous number of stars, frankly, floating around in that turn if you did want to crit things, but you also have managed to double up on her charisma and crit damage. And because you've doubled up on the first skill, congratulations, you now are charging 100% charge per turn. So you don't need any additional charge from the Koyanskayas after this point. That's how ridiculous that first skill is going to be for her. So as we fire off the Noble Phantasm, we're going to get into turn 2 there, and we're going to then have the 2nd and 3rd skill back on each Koyanskaya, assuming they both had their cooldown reduction ones. And we're going to just go ahead and reapply that all to Lord Logres. From here, that 10-turn cooldown skill will be back again. And you may have had to have popped it beforehand in order to get the 2nd and 3rd on Koyanskaya, so forgive me for mentioning that out of turn. But yeah, that's kind of ridiculous because now you're going to get another 50% buster up for 3 turns, and you're going to reduce the Koyanskaya skills a second time. So that's going to get that 2nd and 3rd skill back on both of them. It's just going to frankly be ridiculous. On top of that, again, as we already mentioned, you're going to get skill 2 back again, because why not? Frankly ridiculous, but it is what it is. So you start to realize that, like, yeah, even though you don't have an offensive Mystic Code, you functionally have quadruple support buffs due to the cooldown reductions at play. That's why Lord Logres is going to be kind of insane, is because Lord Logres is going to be Koyanskaya of Light for the entire party, just minus the party charge aspect. Naturally, there's going to be some considerations there. Now, for our next scenario here, this is sort of your traditional Buster comp. This is Koyanskaya of Light, Oberon, a level 100 Black Grail, and a Neo Plug suit, with Lord Logres having the 5th append. Same deal, you guys can see our damage in wave 2 looking a little bit pitiful, but our damage in wave 3 spiking. So we get even more raw potential having that Oberon in there for that extra amplification on any source of NP damage buff. Naturally, you're getting quite a bit of good damage. Ironically enough, if the both man and threat niches are in play, these are actually pretty similar numbers to the other composition. And then you get, again, base raw scaling's a little bit better, but niche scaling not as much as you go up in MP levels compared to that other comp. However, there is a second scenario here, and that's Oberon having his 5th append. This is going to allow him to double up on his first skill, giving the extra NP damage. And so you can see what that's going to do is that is literally going to already just shore it up as wave 1 just gets stronger, wave 2 gets stronger, and wave 3 gets stronger. So you're already just seeing an across the board difference that's magnified up to 60,000 extra damage there just from having that 5th append on Oberon. This is why I say that append usage is now going to matter. If you're worried about this sort of thing on NA, just keep in mind JP does have the capability now to be able to shift the the appends around. So don't worry about it too much, because like let's say you had Oberon's append 2 instead, you can shift it to append 5 at no cost, and you can shift it back to append 2 when you need it. So feel free to play around with that sort of thing. That's not something that you're gonna have to like worry and be like, oh my god, I gotta like roll more copies and get more coins just so I can do this sort of stuff. Again, feel free to like experiment with this stuff, but it's really kind of fun. So what this composition is going to look like is basically in wave 1, you want to use Logres's first and second skill right off the rip, then use all the Koyanskaya skills on Lord Logres. You'll notice this time we're not trying for the cooldown reduction on the third skill for Logres, because we're not going to get back to it in time, and we're just not worried about it. We don't have the Atlas Academy Mystic Code, so we don't have enough cooldown reduction latently in the comp itself. Obviously, you could try to achieve that with another like cooldown reduction support, like an Ibuki or Ibuki Berserker or someone like that, or a say like Tamamo NP or something. But naturally, that's not necessarily going to be like the most synergistic type of comp. So again, Logres skill 1 and 2, then do all the Koyanskaya skills on Logres, then rotate one of the Koyanskayas out for Oberon, bring in Oberon, pop his skill 1, then you pop Logres's skill 3 at that point. So that's where you're going to kind of notice, again, the goal here is going to be getting Oberon's skill 1 back, so you get even more NP damage. From there, you're going to fire off the NP. Logres will refund, basically, as we mentioned before, that kind of 70%. But you're going to go ahead and activate Logres's skill 1 again. You will have already gotten the skill 2 back as of turn 1, so feel free to go ahead and use it. But that's going to basically get her the 100% charge per turn again. So that's just kind of the benefit. If you guys are familiar with kind of the way Salter has worked, well, hers was dependent on the number of enemies in a node. Logres doesn't care about the number of enemies in a node. It's just all about the cooldowns. And if you get it back, you're going to be generating that 100% charge per turn. But because we won't have enough right there, we're going to go ahead and rely on Oberon's skill 2. And you may be worrying about this saying, okay, but Oberon's going to drain 20% charge after the end of this turn if you do that. That's correct. But Artoria also is going to refund 20% charge with her Noble Phantasm. So you don't care. It cancels out. So basically, she kind of gets rid of one of Oberon's demerits by doing that. And so that's going to bring her up to full, fire off the second Noble Phantasm. Then in turn 3, you're going to pop Oberon's skill 1 a second time. And then finally the skill 3 on Lord Logres, plus the Neo Plug Suit's attack buff. And yeah, you're going to get quite a bit of damage output out of that, as we already denoted. pretty significantly raw damage increase over the Koyanskaya alternatives. And then scenario 3 here, this one's going to be pretty strong. This one's going to be the statistically strongest one I think that you guys are going to be able to pull off for Lord Logres. And it's pretty disgustingly good at how much damage it can pump out. So this is going to be Lord Logres with the 5th append, a Koyanskaya of Light, a Waver, and an Oberon with a level 100 Black Grail and a level 10 Neo Plug Suit. Yeah, people doubted me when I said that the Waver buff was going to be a really big thing going forward, but here we are again. Waver is included in yet another like max comp because of it. So you guys can see NP1 here, wave 1 damage, not too great. Wave 2 already looking better than some of the other comps. Wave 3, you're up at 460k there, raw damage at NP1, which is just nasty. Man attribute's going to increase it. Threat to humanity, super effective is going to really balloon it, and both is going to get you up at that million mark. So again, you're noticing the high-end damage scaling of combining all these things gets a little bit worse as you go to the maximal comp, but the raw damage on the front end of not being in a niche gets better. So looking at that, you can see NP2 jumps up to 614k, get a lot more there, but obviously you get a little bit of a taper off there at the end. But how do we make this better? Well, we don't care about the Append 5 on Koyanskaya of Light, but if we have it on Waver and Oberon, we're going to be getting back to Waver's first and third skill. And again, Oberon's first skill himself. Why? Because again, Lord Logres is providing the cooldown reduction to the party as opposed to Koyanskaya just providing it to one unit. So off the rip here, you guys can see about 140k there in Wave 1, which is as good as some of the other compositions Wave 2s. Wave 2 here, 171k, no real discernible difference at that point. But Wave 3, we have ballooned up to 575k raw damage outside of a niche. That starts to get funny in terms of damage capability. And then you start throwing in the man, the threat, and both potentially as damage possibilities. Or, heaven forbid, should you guys get multiple MP levels of Lord Logres, this is just going to really balloon the numbers upward quite a bit. How does this composition work? Well, again, basically your party swapping and cooldown usage gets a little tricky. So, keep in mind the note on this comp is that in Wave 1, you have to use Logres's skill 3 at the very end. So, what you want to go ahead and do is basically just go ahead and pop Lord Logres's first and second skill, then use all the Koyanskaya skills on Lord Logres, rotate that Koyanskaya out, bring in Oberon. Then you're going to go ahead and pop Oberon's skill 1, and then Waver skill 1 and skill 3 on Lord Logres. And that's enough. Go ahead and fire off your Noble Phantasm. From there, you're going to refund that 70%. You're going to use Lord Logres's skill 2 again here in turn 2, as you're not going to get back to it right away in turn 1. But you're also going to use Oberon's skill 2 here to bring things up to full. Then from there, you're going to kind of get the same deal, except you've also drained the 20%. But keep in mind, you haven't repeated the skill 1 on Lord Logres. So you're only going to get the 50% charge plus the 20%, but the 20% is going to get wiped out by Oberon's skill 2. So you've fired off the second Noble Phantasm. Now you're going to repeat the skill 1 on Waver on Lord Logres, and you're going to repeat the skill 1 on Oberon on Lord Logres, and you're going to end up getting skill 3 off of Oberon with the Neo Plug Suit's attack buff. And you're going to fire off that last Noble Phantasm and just do funny numbers. So, on top of that, we have some comparisons. And I think just before we get to that, let's consider other possibilities for Lord Logres. So, with the fact that she kind of functions as a party-wide Koyanskaya in that regard, just without the charge, you have some really interesting capabilities. Obviously, the potential for multiple damage dealer setups is there. People very quickly figured out that Ace/Tonal Eco would pair with her very nicely because she already gets cooldown reduction off of her Noble Phantasm to get to her third skill faster, and then she charges the party with that. Same thing, Lord Logres is going to do cooldown reduction to the party, so that's also going to benefit Ace. And then get some benefit back with Ace having basically her charisma to the party, and then as well her potential party-wide 50% charge. There's another possibility, and that's combining multiple Lord Logresses together. That is to say, you have them handle their respective waves that they need to, but they're also cooldown reducing somebody else. So that's assuming that the unit that they have maybe doesn't need the charge, maybe they're a crit-centric unit, or maybe they just have a ton of charge themselves to be able to handle it the rest of the way. You have a lot of capability there. And as we've already mentioned before, there's some pretty insane, absurd potential with utilizing other supports with Lord Logress, getting their cooldowns back a second time, and using that to further things. Plus, there's the capability, as I already mentioned, for challenge purposes of slapping her into some form of the invincible comp. That's going to make her quite immortal. The consideration would be obviously the 3-turn duration on the third skill, making it so that when that falls off in a knockdown drag-out fight that's going to last longer than that, you're going to have 2 turns of her sleeping. So you're only going to have about like 60% uptime on her overall, and that's something you'll have to play around and be careful with, but it will make for some pretty hilarious runs, I assume. So definitely interesting potential there for multiple damage dealer setups. Again, those are a lot harder to model, a lot harder to get like true like turn orders and damage numbers for. Definitely something that you guys should be able to do though, so play around with her and see what you guys can kind of go for. Now, for our actual comparisons here, we're going to start out with the comparison that would obviously be kind of first on everyone's mind. How does Lord Logress stack up against Artoria? Artoria's gotten a lot of buffs over the years. You guys can see, you know, kind of optimized. She has both her second append and her fifth append, and she also is going to work with the Waver and Oberon setup, and she can do about 450k there at NP1. But when you consider the fact that Lord Logress is going to do 460k, you're like, well, that's not that big of a deal. Unless you start considering the other appends, and then you start seeing, oh my god, yeah, there actually is kind of a little bit of a difference there. So yes, technically at face value, if you have really good Artoria, you don't necessarily have to have someone like Lord Logress for damage purposes, but Lord Logress will out damage Artoria kind of NP level for NP level, and that is something to consider. Looking at Mordred, Mordred's going to fall off a little bit. I've seen a lot of people saying that Mordred needs a buff at this point. Mordred has had multiple buffs. I do think she could maybe use a little bit of a tune-up, but I would be hesitant on giving her anything too overpoweringly strong, because Mordred also has some potential capabilities with her third skill, as well as the crit capability with her second skill that OG Artoria, for instance, lacks. So there is quite a bit of capability there, but yes, admittedly, raw NP damage number, she's only coming in at 350k. That being said, Mordred is not our worst comparison here, as we have quite a few others. I've seen a lot of people say, hey, now we need to actually like really buff a lot of the AoE sabers now that Lord Logress is in the game. But again, the first unit that really kind of started this was Salter becoming a Black Grail looping unit as just a 4-star, as she really pushed the boundaries of what was capable there in her optimized composition. And this is definitely something to watch out for. You can use Salter with Waver, for instance, as well, but it is a little bit of a clunky one. But you guys could see the sort of like optimized damage difference there is that she is going to get a little bit more and be competitive with Lord Logress, just not outright beating her and winning, depending on what's going on. Richard is, again, frankly, a very interesting unit, but he is stuck using cranking at this point. You guys could see the difference between Mud Rain, Black Grail, and cranking. Cranking is definitely quite a bit farther behind, and we are now kind of in a little bit of an arms race amongst any unit in the game as to like whether or not you can touch Black Grail. If you can't, then oh boy, that is going to be your issue. So you guys can see Richard does fall off quite a bit due to that. He's not a bad unit by any means. He does have some really cool animations, so feel free to roll for him basically in a year from now on NA. But this is definitely a consideration, is that, yeah, some of our newer units have not held up as well due to the sheer scalability of some of the older units. Altera, as we mentioned before, was for a while there our strongest AoE Buster Saber, but again, she kind of got obliterated by the Salter buff. So you guys can see she's still in a fairly good spot, but kind of been surpassed at this point by the likes of Mordred and Salter and Artoria, and obviously now Lord Logres. So Altera is kind of beginning to trend a little bit backwards and could probably use another up tweak, which is kind of absurd because, you know, when they first gave Altera charge, it kind of broke her and made her really, really strong. So it's kind of interesting to see the way things have fluctuated over the years in the damage race here. And then my main man, Arthur, while he has had a buff finally, you guys could see he could still use more. He's just not doing too hot. He's still stuck using cranking, and he really, really, really needs a damage tune-up. So he's just kind of sitting there, but still not the worst. Well, he does have Super Giant as a niche and can combine that with Coin Sky's Man. Odds are you're probably going to use other like single target damage dealers against stuff like that. And then we have Ibuki's Saber as our last comparison here, coming in at about 247k. To me, Ibuki's Saber could probably use a tune-up at this point as well. There's a period in time where she kind of popped off again and became very useful there with Hei and Kyo, but admittedly, we're kind of seeing, some of these other units just really could use some love. It kind of started, like I said, with the Salter buff, where she just kind of blew the doors off of a lot of the 5 stars, and frankly, it's just kind of continuing to trend that way, that some of these units are in desperate need. So is Lord Logres good? Yes, absolutely, unequivocally. She's going to do some solid damage for you, and does have multiple compositions that she works in. I think the big question on a lot of people's mind is going to be, do they need it if they already have a heavily invested AoE Saber? And do they really, want her at that point? But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think, again, the utility that she can provide to other units and the fun that you can kind of have with some of the compositions for her do make her a very, very intriguing target for a lot of you guys. So let me know what you guys think about Lord Logres. Do you guys feel like she's too strong? Do you guys feel like they just need to buff other units? Do you guys feel like, the devs were kind of like going crazy with some of the design points here? Curious to hear any take and any thought on this, and I will see you guys for the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for even more FGO analysis videos. Later. Okay. Ooh. Four turns, 50% charge with a pen 5 can touch Black Grail. Yeah. There's definitely some easy ways to tweak Ibuki upwards without like breaking her. And that's honest to God, that's the case for a lot of these. I usually see like pissing matches and jealousy. You guys got to understand, one of the reasons that I don't get into like these pissing matches with regards to AoE Sabers is because this is the oldest class. Chat, if you want to know where any pissing match happened, it all started with AoE Sabers. Like literally day one of FGO, ever since, people have been, getting in these arguments over who the strongest AoE Saber was and like, what was the benefits of each and all that sort of stuff. So that's why usually I don't let my bias get on to me too much. My only stance in this has ever been that Artoria should be strong. And that's basically it. But I look at all this and I say, like, yeah, I mean, there's been numerous times where like Artoria has fallen back and other units have been stronger than her. And that's fine. I usually just want units to be usable first and foremost. And I think if we start looking at a lot of these, most of these units nowadays are pretty usable. Like they're usable in the conventional sense of like the Koyanskaya setup. And that to me is more important that they be, because I think, like, for instance, if we were to look at like the way that Arthur worked beforehand before his buff, Arthur wasn't really touching the Koyanskaya system, at least not with a 50% C. He was naturally just gimped due to that. So I think I look at that and I say like, okay, yeah, then what needs to happen there is he needs to at least have that usability capability, and then we can start working on damage numbers from there. But I do think one of the major criticisms that FGO has over these years is that it does not handle buff timing well, or at least as well as it could. Naturally, I think the players want a much faster buff timing. The devs want a much slower buff timing. I'm sure if the devs absolutely like could choose, they would choose to never buff a unit ever. But I think they at least understand in their wisdom that if they never buff a unit, that then nobody's going to roll for the unit after a couple of years and they get passed. So I think they've realized that some buffs are necessary to keep units relevant, especially when they're popular. Like, for instance, if they never buffed Altera, nobody would ever use Altera because she would just be bad. But they've given her buffs over the years, and it has kept her at least somewhat relevant. But where she, again, really began to take off is when they actually gave her the charge buff that she so sorely needed. And I think that really helped her. So you look at stuff like that, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's what they need to focus on first and foremost, is the unit being usable so that players can enjoy them. Then we can work on the damage. And how we're going to do that is going to be, again, good buff timing. But like I said, the devs don't want to buff fast. The faster they buff, the more power creep happens in the game. So they want to keep it slow, but they still want to do them. My stance is that there's some where it's like, hey, they're slow. And then there's like Ice Age. And like, if you look at, say, for instance, Arthur felt like an Ice Age one where they just kind of kept giving him buffs that he didn't quite need and avoiding the buff that he actually needed. They did the same thing with Altera for a while there. And so I look at that and I go like, yeah, that feels really bad for those units. They deserve their time in the sun. They deserve, to be on top. They deserve to be good. And that's kind of what happened with Altera at one point. And so I do wonder, like, is that going to happen with Arthur at some point? Sometimes buffs do fuck all too. Yeah, usually the devs are pretty good about it. And like I said, I've had a pretty good track record of guessing buffs to units, mostly due to the fact that I try to think how the devs would and try to, say like, what is this unit's strong point? What is their niche, their actual like reason to be used? And when I look at that, that usually gives me a path forward for how the devs would treat the unit, because who created the unit? The devs. So they're thinking along those lines already to begin with. That being said, they've done some really awesome buffs over the years, and they've done some really fucky ones too. So I don't know. It's definitely hit or miss at times, and usually I trust them because I think at least to some degree they have more of a long view approach of where they want the unit to be, what niche, again, they want the unit to fit into, that players don't often like view the unit with that same lens. So I default to them being right. But yeah, there's some that even I've had to question and been like, dude, what are you doing? This is absolutely not what the unit needs, and you guys don't know what you're doing with this unit. Hyde's form that made the Berserker form worse will never not be funny. Hyde's buff didn't make the Berserker form worse. Hyde's buff made the Assassin form better if you wanted to use it. Like, and that's kind of the problem with it is, yes, in doing it, it would make the Berserker form worse. So naturally, if your goal, as it should be, was to get into Berserker form, you're not going to fucking use it. So it's more, to me, it's like an optional buff. It's like, yeah, you unlock it so that you have it, but you just don't press that skill. Funniest shit I've ever seen. Yeah. Small surprise for you in VIP. Oh boy. I can see you in 4K. Well, that's weird. Because I'm only streaming in 2K, Ash. I see. Damn, Ash got his Reddit mod set up. Melt buff putting the cavalry class out of a job. Yeah, and I think like when I look at some of those, I think buffs to berserkers and extra classes are really nasty for that sort of thing because they really threaten to append stuff. Like, for instance, if we look at how strong Mel was a threat to her own class, but Mel was not really a threat too much outside of her own class. Why? Because you have, of the 7 base classes, a class that you're really good against and a class that you're really bad against. With extra classes, you don't necessarily have that same disadvantage. Yes, there's a class that you're really good against and a class that you're really bad against, but they also exist in the extra triangle. Therefore, to everybody else, you're usually neutral. So that's less of a consideration. And in the case of alter egos and pretenders, you're just actually semi-effective against some of the other classes. So it does get kind of like WTF, mate. But I think when I look at that, I go like, yeah, they maybe should have like examined the numbers a little bit better. But as I mentioned before, I do think the devs want to, how should I put it? I think the devs want to sell units. I think they want to make them attractive to people, and they want to make sure that they are actively what's the word I'm looking for here? Like actively making the unit popular and profitable, okay? I think the devs understand that if they make a unit equal, the unit is going to sell entirely based off its popularity. If they make the unit 1% stronger, the unit will sell based off its popularity and based off of like meta slaves. Okay. But if they make a unit like 5% stronger or 10% stronger, there's a point in here where it starts to sell to everyone. Because it sells based off its popularity, it sells based off the fact that it's meta, and it kind of is so strong that it starts getting everyone to bust out the piggy bank. So I think they realize it's like, yeah, if we do this, we get far less. So even though this is very minimal power creep, this doesn't make us a lot of sales. But this does. The problem that I would contend with is, while I do believe that that's the case, I also believe that selling a unit that is 5 or 10% better than like everybody else causes problems. Because now that unit is the de facto leader. It's the unit that everybody wants. It's the unit that everyone rolls for. So while, yes, you get a big cash in on that, nobody rolls for any of the other units then. And then you have a problem. Because then you try to put a banner out there for another unit and everyone goes, why the fuck would I roll for that? And therein you have your issue. Finally able to click now? No, I think everybody else has been able to use it, Yakama. I think. Power creep goes hard. Yep. Logres makes sense to be the de facto leader and still kind of works because of Arctoria. Well, like I said, if you look at Logres' strongest comp, it's right here at 575k, but this is with A5 shenanigans, okay? Without those A5 shenanigans, she's 460. What's Arctoria? 450. What's Salter? 465. Huh. The difference here is the only way you're getting more out of Salter is additional MP levels. Because Salter doesn't herself have a niche. She's just hard, raw damage. Always has been. Same thing with Arctoria. But you look at Logres here, Logres has niches. And Logres does have further shenanigans that she can do. So it starts getting kind of like, what? Get wrecked, my dear. Thank you for the follow. power crop, yeah. I've got in P5 Selter level 100, I'll skill max a pen. Yeah. And so, like, that's going to make for a really strong Selter. You would need a very strong Lord Logres to out damage it. But that's also why I said, like, to me, one of the big things with Lord Logres is, like, this skill is just fucking dumb. Just actually fucking dumb. I think when I first started looking at her, I had major complaints for the limitations that they put on this unit. Now, in using her and thinking about her more and becoming more familiar with her kit, I get it. I get why they put the limitations. Thing is, threat to humanity is a rare niche locked only to story and rarely events. Okay. So what? Like, let's take away every single niche from Lord Logres. Uh-oh! Still the strongest AoE saber. Like, raw. That's what the threat there is. So it's the same thing. It's like, again, I've gotten in arguments with people that are like, oh, Castoria Berserker's not as good as what's her face? Lilith. And it's like, okay, that's a take you can have. I would 10 times rather have Castoria Berserker's kit than Lilith's. And yeah, it's like she has threat to humanity niche. Well, that's not going to be that important. It's locked only to rare niche stuff and story. Oh, wait. It was the most meta thing there for the finale and, like, grand fights. Uh-oh. So that's kind of the thing, right? It's like, yes, it doesn't come into play that often, but it does. And when it does, it's really good. Yeah, and I'm not trying to shit on Lilith. It's just, I look at this and it's like, people will often make too big of a deal out of damage. I have a tendency to value kit over damage. As long as damage is competitive, let me say. Like, if we're talking like the difference between Lord Logres' damage, Artoria's damage, and Salter's damage, do you need to care, chat? No. No, those damage values are all very good. But let's say we're talking Lord Logres and Mordred. Yeah, you might want to care. Let's say we're talking Richard. You might want to care, right? Like, Richard's at 267, chat. To Logres is 575. Logres is more than 2 times stronger than Richard. That is statistically significant, right? Like, that's why I say it's like, to me, if we're talking like tens of thousands of damage, it's not a problem. But the second we start talking hundreds of thousands of damage, it is. I mean, Lilith is just better Kentucky. Like I said, Lilith is still a very strong and very good unit. How's Altera stand up to Logres? We went over that earlier. Altera is only at 304. Which is wild, because chat, I want you guys to understand this. This used to be the strongest AoE saber in the game. Like, when she got her buff that gave her 30% charge, Altera was the strongest AoE saber in the game. So you can see this to this, how far we've come. This is power creep, chat. There is no if, ands, or buts. It is what it is. Richard, chat. Come here. Closer. Okay, give me your ears. Richard will get buffed for strange fake. Am I wrong? No Gil buff. That would be funny, honestly. How about Enkidu buff? Yeah, I don't think Enkidu needs another buff either. I hope Richard's buff too. Yeah. I'm just gonna say, like, let's not go burn down the single headquarters because Richard's state is currently bad. He's very likely to get some attention here. And that's what I expect they're gonna do here in the short term. They're going to lean into Valentine's Day and Strange Fake. These are going to be their two short-term bullet points. Hey, chat. What event is ongoing right now in JP? You're probably not getting an event. You're probably just going to go into Valentine's Day. It'll be like an early Valentine's Day event. Like, expect a dead January where they just kind of milk Fate Strange Fake. Now the real question is, where is my arc buff? Your arc's not getting a buff. Honestly, I need a break from JP. Yeah, and that's so I think Chad also was like, Cad, why are you getting upset over like no story announcement and stuff? And then like, you know, again, we did get like some story stuff here on the 7th, but like it's not that I didn't think that like we needed some time and stuff. It's just I just wanted them to again like commit to the game. I just wanted some like verbal commitment. We can take some time off. There's no problem with that. Lord knows I need it. My life is busy as shit right now. In a good way. Where's my Astolfo buff? Honestly? They could probably buff Astolfo. At least Saber. Probably not OG, but... they could probably buff OG. I hope we get the Snake Lady from last year from the Valentine's event. That'd be interesting. Irisveal has gotten a buff. It did help her out. We'll see if they do anything more with her. Don't you say that, Katana. Curse me. So let me walk you guys through this. I looked at the skill. I was like, damn, this is so strong. But damn, I hate the sleep. Why the hell did they Oberon us? And then I remember I was bitching to Avalon about it, and then Avalon's like, you know the sleep's not, like, permanent, right? And I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, okay. Because I just had not had time to, like, read it very thoroughly yet. And I was like, damn. So, like, yeah, it is. I am very happy that they, like, I will take 2 turns of her being asleep as opposed to permanent sleep that you can do nothing about. I hate that so much on Oberon. Her kid is so loaded that 2-turn shutdown doesn't really feel like enough of a demerit. It's a demerit, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it just is what it is. Actually, the thing I need to test is like in a comp where you double pop this, does it stack? I don't remember if this buff is unique or not. It's an arc of all time. I think that's where I stopped watching. I just find it funny she should charge during the sleep. Yes. As Logres compare with the best AoE farmers? I mean, she'll be up there. Like I said, it's 575 raw, so just considering chat, if let's say this is a Lancer, that means you just get to take this number and multiply it by 2. Like, this is just funny numbers, right? Like, just, oh, oops, 1,000,000 damage per enemy. And obviously, like I said, you can get additional NP levels, you can grail her, you can, you know, gold foe her, so like, yeah, it dumb. For Berserkers, it's even more because of Append, right? Yes. Finally, someone else over Mello. Mello hasn't been the top for a while now. Mello kind of got power crept within like a year of her existence. It's just, again, when you start looking at someone like Mel, right? Like, Mel is so strong that, oh no, she was power crept. Yeah, but I'm already still like doing monopoly damage, so I don't care, right? Like, it's the same thing. It's like, again, most people don't realize that Lartoria has passed Mel. But who cares? It just means Lartoria is really good and competitive now. It doesn't mean that Mel is bad. Like, again, we can look at this, and I think the only reason that we can like sit here and like talk about like Altera like being kind of on the lower end now is just because of the sheer amount of power creep and buffs that have happened. This is technically not a bad number by any stretch of the imagination. This is, again, against an effective unit, chat, this is like 610k per unit. That's dumb, right? But when you have units that are doing like 1,000,000 damage per, you start going like, well, fuck. So it is what it is. Incoming Mellow buff, please no. I don't think they're gonna buff Mel. I think the devs kind of know that at least with Mel they made a little bit of a mistake in the sense that basically Mel is too capable utility wise. It's the same issue we're going to eventually probably have with Logres, where Logres too good, why me need other unit? Like, chat, do I need to roll another Saber ever again? No, probably not. I could probably use Logres as a single target Saber. So, like, therein lies the issue. Hey, what am I doing? Give me my caster. I gotta bring my boy back, the OG, the Wager. And again, oh, I guess it's screaming at me because of the support unit needing to be refreshed. Units in 2025 are just crazy. Yeah. Like I said, you guys are about to get another like really ridiculous stint with with like Seal coming to an A. Like when Seal comes out, Seal is so dumb from the perspective of like you can kind of just take her into like any number of like 90 plus nodes and she just works and kills it. And it's kind of stupid. And then you start wondering, you're like, but why did they do that? And why didn't they do anything about it? It's like they kind of tried. And then finally, I think they realized what the limitation was that they needed to use. Is letting skill 3 just be a form flip instead of just an A. Yeah, I would allow that. I think there's a lot of things where people have said like, oh, like her second skill or whatever needs a buff. And I'm like, no, it fucking doesn't. It's already way better than Lancelot's. So like, I look at that sort of stuff and I go like, no, I think the big thing is just that like, yeah, Mel should probably, her skill, they need to get rid of the stupid idea of units being gameplay based off of their ascension, because it limits what ascension you can use when a player might have a preference. And I think that's just inherently dumb. I think Lasagna doesn't give a damn about breaking the game anymore. No, I think they do. But like, to understand this, chat, what breaks the game? What, in your opinion, breaks the game? If you guys can tell me. And I'll tell you what, in my opinion, breaks the game. Bugs. Ascension-based effects just ruin costumes. Yeah. But like, and this is a serious question. I'm asking you guys, what do you guys think breaks the game? Again, you guys can see the damage numbers here. This is the only difference is I don't have her gold phode, but this is a 120 in P5. So huh. 1 unit Oberon. In theory, we can argue Oberon doesn't break the game. I think terminology at least a little bit matters, and there is some justification that can be used to say like, oh yeah, Oberon breaks the game. But I think we could also look at it and say like, does Oberon actually break the game? And the answer is kind of no. I think where it matters is the profound impact that a unit has. And this is difficult because I feel like a lot of people get this side of things wrong. So like, people would look at like, say, Melisandre and say Melisandre breaks the game. Or Kukulkan breaks the game. Or Melt breaks the game. Or Logres breaks the game. Or Castoria breaks the game. I think if we look at things, we have to determine breaking the game is probably something where I would say that a unit is so dominant it becomes bad. So we can say that like Castoria or Oberon or Mel even like that they break the game, right? But I also think you can determine it from a point of saying like this unit does too much damage and that's breaking the game. But I look at that and I go like, does it really? Like if we look at the Castoria and Oberon issues, the issue is not the effect that they have on the game. It's that the player has to have them because of the effect they have on the game. If there were alternatives to Oberon, if there were alternatives to Castoria, they're not game breaking. Same thing if we look at the damage numbers, it's like, well, what does it matter if we can get other units to do those damage numbers? So, or what does it matter even if we can, let's say like Lord Logres came out and does 200% more damage than everybody else. Okay, does that matter, chat? Is that game breaking? Not as long as they don't balance around it. Like, who cares if a unit does stupid numbers of damage that you never need, right? Like, so let's say, I don't know, like, let's say Lord Logres did 2 million damage, but you only needed 1 million of it. So that's 1 million extra damage there that people be like, oh man, but this other unit needs a buff. Well, if that other unit does 1 million damage, you don't care. That other unit cleared. Both units clear. This is just icing on the cake. So if anything, this is more like future proofing. This is power creep, obviously, and like just scalability issues in general. But to me, I don't think a lot of things actually break the game. I feel like we use the terminology a lot, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons that I hone in on like Oberon, for instance, is because, again, a lot of players feel like they have to have him. A lot of the game feels like it's balanced around him. Same thing I think you could say for Castoria. And I dispute that Castoria is, at least from the standpoint of, because there's a counterbalance with Castoria, and there kind of is with Oberon too. But the counterbalance with Castoria is that Castoria, while players feel like they have to have her, and while the game is balanced around her largely, Castoria does make the game easier. She actually allows people to invalidate certain aspects of the game that they just don't want to deal with. And I think that's a good thing, a little bit for players. Oberon kind of does a similar effect. And I said this before, the reason I've changed my stance on Oberon, and you guys can hear me out on this, Oberon severely boosted damage. Then the devs balanced the game around Oberon. Chat, where did Oberon become broken? Can anyone answer this question for me? I agree with Fields. So it was this point that Oberon became broken. Oberon wasn't broken because of how much damage he actually provided to the party. In theory, that's a good thing. You know why? Because Oberon coming into the game allowed anybody to play the game and win at NP1. This is great for the players. When they started rebalancing it, that was bad. Because what the rebalance did is this made it so that very few units in the game worked. Like, to what Zev's saying, every unit in the game worked here. Everything. This was great. But because they overtuned it, they had to rebalance it. And when they rebalanced it, we went from, I would say pre-Oberon. Chat, you guys can challenge me on this if you want. Pre-Oberon, you had 90 plus content, and I would wager 70% of the roster was usable in 90 plus content. Agree? Disagree? Post Oberon, you have 90 plus content. And I'd tell you, like, in between the 90 plus, in between Oberon coming out and 90 plus coming out, you had 100% usability. But, well, maybe 99. Like, I mean, you have units like Fergus that are just like, we have no charge. It's difficult to use this unit, right? But, like, post Oberon, you have 90 plus. I would argue this number sinks to about 10% of the roster. That was really fucking bad for the game. That's my issue with this. Because this created what I like to refer to as super metas, where, like, again, like, you have like the Kukulkans, the Melisons, the Tiamats and stuff, where it's like those units are usable, but who else do you use? You don't. Like, unless you have one of those really powerful units or just a like 120 perfected in niche unit, they're not usable. And that's kind of a problem. I do think there's some active consideration there for like the use of like damage Cs and things in events that do allow for more of the roster there. But yeah, I think like looking at that, I start going like, what the hell? What was that shift? That is not acceptable. And I think over time, the devs have realized that this was a thing and that this was a problem. But I don't think they realized it at first. And I think even when they started to realize it, the first way that they did wasn't that like, oh, only 10% of the roster is usable. It was, oh, only 10% of our banners are getting rolled on. There's only a handful of units that are actually getting attention. And I think that's where they went like, oh, shit. And then they started trying to diagnose that. And then I think they actually stumbled on their answer. I think you should be able to use whoever you want within reason in most content. I can hear an argument that says that we really shouldn't be able to use like 3 stars in 90 plus content. I get that. But chat, should you be able to use 5 stars in 90 plus content? Obviously. Should you be able to use 4 stars in 90 plus content? Yes. Like 3 stars not necessarily being able to. Okay. But yeah, you should be able to use, and like, you know, maybe there's the occasional 4 or 5 star that you can't. I get that. But like, man, we were at a point where like it really felt for a while that there was a lot of the roster that you could not use. And that was a misstep on their part. 3 stars should be able to with some grails and some love. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And especially depending on the 3 star. Like, for instance, could you use, like, say, Bedivere, who has charge in his kit, who has NP damage up, right? Like, yeah, if you have a high NP level of Bedivere, could you make him work? Yeah, I think that's fair, especially if you'd, like, grail them or something. But I think, like, we're just talking base values here. But argue Black Grail did the same damage to the game as Oberon? No, because Black Grail's been in the game from day one. Black Grail wasn't even really meta until, like, honestly, like, kind of started with Scotty, and then it still really wasn't for most units. I think I started seeing Black Grail usage spike up. It was pre-Castrea, but it was, and Chad can tell me if I'm wrong, it was right around the time that Paracelsus got his buff, and more realistically, Nero Bride. When Nero Bride got her buff, that's when a lot of arts units started being able to be like, ooh. And then Castrea came in and it became actually like all the units could. Yeah, it's like Castoria was a big swath of it, but I think we started seeing it become more and more relevant. I'd say like a couple months prior to Castoria. I was able to use the Armored Saber and was so happy. It's a very rare situation to be able to use them. Yeah, the first one was really interesting because it was basically just a 1-1-1 node. Do you think Grand Duels have altered the meta of the game at all? No. Because they're temporary content. Well, technically they're not, but like there's a point where you could say like, okay, you farmed it and you technically don't need it. Now, I will say this, and to the point of Black Grail, okay? Keep in mind, why is Black Grail meta, chat? Damage? Yeah. Here's the thing. Even in a post-Castoria world, there were still units that couldn't really get away with Black Grail. And so there was still this kind of hierarchy of like Black Grail was for units that had really good refund. Whoops. But bad damage. And we used to have a inversely proportional relationship between refund or charge and damage. That is to say, the more refund or charge a unit had, the less overall damage output they used to have. That used to be the balancing mechanism. And then they kind of threw that out. Why did they throw it out? Because they started giving units both. But this is the whole reason why. Usually more charge meant you got more damage. Why? Because you had access to better craft essences. If you didn't, you usually had to have higher base damage. So therein lies the issue. The true answer to that poll's not there. Do you feel like JP 2025 had a lot of content because of the Grand Duels? Or did it kind of feel padded like Old Road to 7? It was certainly a lot better than Old Road to 7, but I can't say it's like as good as like just constantly getting like story and stuff. I do feel like it was better this year than prior years, but it's still a difficult thing to quantify. But yeah, so to me, chat, you used to see things like Black Grail getting used. You used to see things like Honey Lake. You used to see things like what's the other one? Sign of a Smiling Face. You used to see things like the Kama Chocolate Sea a lot more. But basically, there was a whole multitude of Cs that people would use. The reason Black Grail became so meta, chat, let's look at this. 80% NP damage. And attack up. Oops. Because you have like 2400 attack, right? That's a lot. But what if we compare this to, I don't know, like a C that's, say, like 30% NP damage and 2k attack up Like, that's not great. And there is a gap there. But this is still statistically significant. And attack power is a lot more important than a lot of people realize. So wherein lied the problem? Well, this is a gap, and it is statistically significant. Do you know what's better than 80% in P damage, chat? %160% in P damage. And then when you consider that Oberon's the game's first 70% charger, that's why it's Oberon. It's not Black Grail, chat. Oberon's doubling all of this. Oberon's widening gaps. I still think that the way they handled Oberon's skill 3 was just dumb. And they should have known it was going to cause problems. Wait, level 200? Yeah, this is a thing if you've beaten story. Granted, when am I going to reach it? I don't know. Does an NP damage cap at 500%? Yeah. But that's why, like, you start looking at that and you start going like, what the actual crap, right? Like, that's why I say it's Oberon. Oberon just takes everything that exists in the game that has MP damage and doubles it. So he's a force multiplier. He is an enabler because he allows units that never could before to touch Black Grail. And he allows a bunch of other units to be able to just loop better or touch a better CE than they could prior. So I look at that and I say, like, yeah, it's Oberon. It's still Oberon. If you were to remove Black Grail from the game entirely, Oberon is still the most broken thing in the game. Easily. Because think about it, chat. What are your alternatives? I mean, you have other 50% NP damage Cs. You have, like, basically other variants of Black Grail that are not Black Grail. So even if you remove all the variants, you're still gonna just absolutely magnify the crap out of certain Cs. Kevin's feel, yeah, like, I've made this the point in case for this one multiple times, chat. Yeah. This is a 3-star CE. Even if you don't have Black Grail, you can still get 40% extra NP damage here with Oberon. It's also all attack, yeah. Like, it just is what it is, guys. And like I said, then there's is it Angel's song? Is it Angel's Cry? No. I don't know why it's not showing up in the list there, but there you go. That's 60%. And this is just your 4-star variant. And then, yeah, Heaven's Feel. So it's like, even if we threw out like Black Grail, was it Phantasmal Princess or whatever, like there's a bunch of like spin-offs. You could throw out Mud Rain, you'd still have something like this, and it's still just dumb. One Black Grail is better than MLB Heaven's Feel. You're not wrong, right? I'm just saying, like, removing Black Grail from the game does tone down the Oberon damage, but not by much. Like, you're still getting a crap ton of damage. Musashi overcharge is 90% MP damage at max. Yeah. For daily use, at least, Oberon kind of like Luster for extremely gimmicky fights. Yeah, I think the issue with Oberon again is the 3-turn brick really hurts him for challenge content if you're not sure that you can get a 3-turn. Did you see the 30-second Olga comp for tree raids? No, I didn't. Well, to be fair, right? Like, do you want to know why this doesn't have a permanent sleep, chat? It lacks the most broken aspect of Oberon's. Like, Oberon also has 50% damage up on his, but Oberon's is targetable. And Oberon has again, 100% extra NP damage modifier on it. Like, that's why Oberon's bricks you. Because fuck letting somebody get away with that for multiple times. And they're not wrong, right? Like, I completely understand why they put that limitation on Oberon. How do you feel about Maiden Halloween Sea? It's amazing, especially for self-healing. Slap on some healing command codes, slap on Maiden Halloween, laugh at content. I really want them to make more good 3-star Cs. They kind of don't need to. Doubling craft essence effects is busted. Yeah, honestly, I feel like there's 2 things I would have done to limit Oberon. I either just would have not allowed it to impact external sources of NP damage. So, like, if you want to double up a Servant's NP damage, that's fine. But don't allow it to double up, like, craft essences, mystic codes, other support units. Like, that would have been a way to limit it. The other one would have been to simply just, like, remove it. Like, allow me, chat. Okay, chat. Answer me this. Is Oberon still a meta unit? Yeah, those of you that said yes are right. You can completely remove this effect and Oberon's still meta. He's 70% charged, so some units have to use him. And he's your best 3rd support. Still. Assuming it's Buster. If you go outside of Buster, no, this actually makes Oberon not meta anymore. Which is interesting. So, like, yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. I would say that maybe one of the things that they should do is they should probably, if they did that, it should have been like 3-turn duration on the Buster Up or something. But yeah, it's still really, 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 really broken. Because again, 70% charge. It's an inescapable truth. Sorry, I circled the wrong thing. An inescapable like thing that some units are just gonna have to have. The character that breaks FGO's game is Bizette. That's an interesting one. I think you could make an argument of yes, but Maybe some quick units could need him for a charge, but triple Scotty is still a thing. Scotty is a thing, but there are some quick units that don't do well with refund and require double Oberon as a setup instead of triple Scotty. Make the Buster like Mount Obu attack, ramping per turn, but without the NP boosting. That'd be an interesting effect, honestly. But like the only reason why I say this is because like they legitimately didn't need to give this effect to make Oberon still a highly sought after unit. Putting this on is like, bro, what were I wanted to be at the party where they had like the like full service bar that the guy got absolutely plastered on and then like went into the bathroom and still did drugs and then came up with this idea. Because ain't no way. I don't know who they let cook on this one, but this guy overcooked. He burnt to a crisp. Like I said, you could chat, you could literally make the scale from 0% to 50. And that would still be stupid. Still. Did some fairy dust and said, let's go. Yeah. We didn't know that the 70% charge is the least broken part. I mean, to some degree, you could still say it is. But yeah, like I said, again, that is a valid point because I remember making a video about Oberon when Oberon was available as an NPC in LB6. And we only knew his first two skills. And I had to make a video talking about how Oberon was going to change the meta. And that was before we knew about this fucking ass shit. This broken as dick skill. Like, he was already with two skills going to change the meta. Takaru does stupid damage, yeah. Keep in mind, if you guys are using Takaru, because I said it in the video, but I'll restate it again for anyone that didn't go watch my video, even though you should. Remember that the unit you target with Takaru matters, because the unit that's targeted is the one that gets the arts down before damage goes out. Every time a new game-breaking unit comes out, they end up breaking the game for a couple months, and then everybody moves on and goes back to their standard meta comps. Units seem to be very flavor of the month, like Bazette, Noji, Mel, and Karen post-upgrade. Yeah. I mean, I've long been trying to be like the voice of reason on that sort of stuff and be like, this unit's very strong, but you don't have to have it. Like, chat, even when I said that you guys should all consider Lord Logres, I kind of ultimately said, like, yeah, you don't have to have her. Is she very, very strong? Yeah. Do you have to have her? No. Like, that is the beauty of FGO, is if you're savvy enough and you're cognizant and you have the ability to say no, you're good. You're Gucci. Ah. Making a Buster was a sap to make people think Oberon was mainly Buster. I mean, chat, let's be honest. You could have also just had the entire effect of the NP damage up and just never had the Buster up. Like, agreed, chat? Oberon didn't need Buster up. You think there's maybe a chance they wanted 90 plus plus to be added to the game, but didn't know how to have players completed in a timely manner? So they just slapped the ability on them. Shifty, no. Thank you for the follow. It's an interesting idea, Sora. I've kind of pointed at this before, and it's that like it's a chicken and egg scenario. Was Oberon given this skill as a means to power creep the game to create more money, only to then have them do 90 plus plus to rebalance the power creep issues? Or did they need to rebalance the power creep issues, and so they created a power creep problem that they benefited from by making more money? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. The only thing I can tell you is that, again, Oberon comes out. He comes out in a broken ass state like this. Absolutely busts the doors wide open on damage. Oberon proceeds to not get another banner for 18 months. And in that 18-month period of him not having a banner, they released 90 plus plus. Pretty much a year after releasing 90 plus into the game. To me, the answer seems to be that they created Oberon. They wanted him to sell well. They made him really good. And then they went, oh, fuck, we made him too good. So that's how I've always viewed it. But is it possible that they just wanted to rebalance things anyways? Yes. My stance, though, is that they had already tried that with 90 plus. Because if you guys remember, 90 plus came out shortly before Oberon, too. And they went like, oh, fuck. Because 90 plus, I think, came into the game as a means of shaking up the all AoE farming meta of 333 nodes. 90 plus was a way to get weird composition setups, critting, single target damage dealers back into the game's farming thing. Because again, despite the denial that like a good chunk of the like challenge community will have, this game is 99% farming. And I don't know why people act otherwise. So yeah, they needed single targets to become relevant in the same way that like we've needed like extra classes to become more relevant. And then, you know, here comes like Ordeal Call and stuff. So it is what it is. They went, oh fuck, we only have so many performing banners. Lo and behold, Salter, Melt, and comma buffs. Yeah. We got break bars. I was like, oh, this is going to happen again in the future. Yeah. '90 plus isn't a huge jump in difficulty. It's only there to counter double Scotty. I wouldn't say it's even necessary to counter double Scotty. It's literally, like I said, I think they wanted to shift up the meta overall. They wanted single targets and stuff back in farming relevance. Because if not, why do you need single targets that much? Like, you obviously need them for like boss fights, but then there's no reason to roll the like multitudinous other single targets. So I think they realized like, oh, we need to start actually making them viable so that they have more uses, so that those niches come into play more often, and therefore they sell better. Overlong caused a fuckload of circle jerking that we are only now healing from. I would argue you still haven't healed from it. I've seen so many people argue with me on like, oh, multiple damage dealer setups are the meta. No, they're not. Never have been. Multiple damage dealer setups. I have harsh news for chat. Do you know who multiple damage dealer setups are meta for, chat? And do you know why that is? Yeah, I was gonna say it's been that way since the beginning of the game. Super scopes used to be the tool of whales, and that's how we used to do that. It was the optimal speed farming strategy. This goes back to the same deal that I've talked about before, which is that let's say you have a DPS 1, DPS 2, and then I'm gonna call it sup 1 and sup 2 setup. Okay, so this is your setup. This is a multiple damage dealer setup with 2 supports, where this is your backline and you're going to rotate the supports in. Okay, as opposed to sup 1, DPS 1, sup 2, and sup 3. Chat. Which comp does more damage? Let me ask ChatGPT. It'll fail you. 2 at a glance. So most of the time 2 is correct. Most of the time 2 is correct. Do you know when 2 isn't correct, chat? Nope, no one's gotten it yet. What was the question? Which one of these 2 setups does the most damage? And chat said setup 2 should do the most damage, which they're correct. But when is that not true? When does setup 2 not do more damage than setup 1? In other words, when does setup 1 do more damage than setup 2, chat? Someone's floated niche. That's not true because niche can come into play for setup 2 as well. And you're not trying to min turn. No. You're getting closer. You're thinking along the right lines though. When one of the supports is also a damage dealer? No, but I like the way you're thinking. When you have all MP5? No. Let's say for argument's sake, everybody is NP1. Yes! Sora got it. The only way that setup 1 does more damage, chat, is when you have a multiple NP setup. So let's say damage dealer number 1 handles wave number 1. Damage dealer number 2 handles wave number 2. The only way this setup does more damage than this setup is when for wave 3, both damage dealers NP. That's the only way. So this only really works when you probably have like loopers at play. So we're comparing like 2 looping comps then instead. Because then you have to double it up. The problem with that is inefficient. Like you don't want to have to do multiple MPs in one turn if you don't have to. But that's the only way. Otherwise, as someone in chat already mentioned, the multiplicative nature of buffing means that the sum of the whole is stronger than its parts. AKA, basically due to the interaction of buffs and the synergy there, you get more firepower from buff stacking. Therefore, this one unit will always be able to outdamage these two. So, some of the tools that are at play are going to be damage bonus units to make something like this more viable, or higher NP levels, or niches coming into play. There are many ways that you can get like a multiple damage dealer setup to work. And it doesn't have to be Whaley. Okay? But yes, generally this is still just the strongest bang for your buck force multiplier. Here's the other reason why. Because usually you just roll for these units. And you take somebody else's super strong DPS unit, or you basically just say, hey, I'm going to take the missing support that I don't have. I'm going to buff the crap out of my favorite unit that I've managed to enhance a ton. That's why single core works so well. Keep in mind, too, we've seen this reinforced over time. Koyanskaya setups really want a single damage dealer, usually. Honestly, things like Tiamat Archer are also going to want it. Like, basically, the synergy of double support setups is what really does enforce it. Don't have to, but it is usually the biggest deal breaker there. Which usually means paying up. Yeah, I'd agree with that, Dresk. But, so, again, people try to get in a pissing match, but the reason I always try to demonstrate that is because I'll see people say, like, okay, we're going to use a multiple damage dealer setup. That's better, right? Like, I see everyone using these. These are so much better. It's like, no, it's actually not. Like, single damage dealer is usually the way to get the most damage output. But there's any number of ways to solve nodes in a game. And there are many times that I've used both. But, and I'll point this out too, chat. If we go back and we look at how things work, there's a lot of like multiple damage dealer setups early in an account's history. And then you hyper fixate. And once you begin to fixate, you center around a couple of key damage dealers for your account. And that continues until you get all the way to a point where, again, like, you come out the backside whalish and you have, like, multiple NP5s, and you're just like, well, I could just throw multiple units at this. Multiple damage dealer setups are the way to bond units I want most of the time. Yeah, and I'd say that's fine. Like, there's other reasons to consider using them. Talking about game breaking, doesn't Tolkien Marie count as well? Well, that's what I was trying to say. Is like, I think there's multiple definitions for game breaking. We need to shift to the crane meta. Plus, remember when you have multiple DPS and a support, you have to split the buffs between both DPS units instead of having one DPS soak up all the buffs. Right. And usually what will happen there in a multiple damage dealer setup is, let's say you have DPS 1 and DPS 2, okay? Somebody's getting all the buffs and is probably handling 2 of the waves. And the other one's like, I got kind of no buffs, but I'm strong enough to take 1 wave. That's usually the way it goes. How many comps can use 2 NPs in the last wave? Because I figured, even with a looper, if you introduce single target servants, they've really struggled to loop in 90 plus nodes, is my experience. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's usually what's going to have to occur, is like some sort of like weird setup where somehow both of them got back to full in time for the 3rd wave, and then you fire off both. Technically, multiple damage dealer is not more bond, assuming you're able to spread supports around really effectively. But that is a bold assumption. Not everyone does that. Full lineup with bond 15 units to super funnel the character I want to bond. I would say that's technically bond inefficient, but yeah. It's like, if you don't care and your focus is just trying to like hyper bond a like unit that you like, it is what it is. Because my AoE unit isn't strong enough to kill some high HP unit on 1 wave. Yeah, that's usually like where people don't do the single damage dealer setup, is when they don't have a unit that's strong enough to do the single damage dealer setup. So it's like, try as they might, buff stacking to all hell and back, they can't do it. They're going to drop into a multiple damage dealer setup. Because again, at that point, it's probably safer. How many more build points do we need before we could start using Summer Kuro and a 5-star DPS and 3 other supports? I don't know. What are you trying to do here? I mean, I can do that right now. Hold on. Yeah, that's Avenger. There you go. And like I said, this is 5-star, 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 and then my 4-star CE. That is the additional bond point up. So that works. And I still have some to spare. Yeah, forgive me if I misunderstood the question, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that has always been possible. Now let me go put my Salter back in because I'm trying to backline bonder. Do you think dedicated heal units have a place in this game anymore in an era of invincible comp and defense buff stacking and burst damage? What do you mean by dedicated heal units? Like, define that for me. Because I'm both trying to understand your question and trying to refine my answer. Someone like Medea Lily? Well, I mean, Medea Lily has an NP that heals the entire party. So, like, do I feel like units like that have a place? Yeah, I mean, that's basically Merlin to an extent, right? I think the reason that if we look at someone like Merlin and Proto Merlin, why they are so strong is because they kind of automate the process and they're doing it over time. On top of that, they're automating getting back to their NP. And that is a big thing that I think a lot of people discount. And one of my chief complaints with units like Medea Lily is that we need a much more like, nobody wants to use their cards because their cards are kind of shit. Like again, I once had a friend that called Medea Lily a what was it? A tickle monster, right? Because it's like there's no way if she has to attack that she's gonna kill anything. Because her card power is just so fucking low, right? So therein lies the issue. You don't want to use their cards. You kind of sometimes feel like you have to for like triple art stuff and things over time. But I feel like what usually works better is to have some sort of automated way. This is why, again, you'll see a lot of things like stacking Prisma Cosmos and stuff on those sorts of units to try to make it automated and better. But then again, that's all stuff that you can do with Merlin and Proto Merlin as well to further enhance them. So yeah, do they still have a place in the game? Yes, absolutely. The problem lies in the fact that you just can't do a whole lot due to the design. I think they just really need buffs, is all it is. I'm also going to go ahead and say that in a game where like enemies can just one-shot you, having a piss poor heal of like 2k that's targeted is just god awful. Like even 5k at this point feels kind of weak. So like they can still absolutely be used. They're not, it's not that they don't have a place, but I do feel like when you have some of these stronger tools, again, it's like a power creep issue. That's why chat. Do you guys remember, like, shortly after Koyan, Sky, and Oberon came into the game, there were people that were like, yeah, you don't need to roll Merlin, he's bad. And I kept telling people, I was like, no, you definitely still want Merlin. What's wrong with you people? Logres having 2 Tamamo NPs on a skill is another comparison that is true. You mean her first skill? Like I said, I'm not opposed to like Tamamo getting a buff. I just think the way they need to handle Tamamo's buff needs to be interesting. Her third skill? That's true. Unfortunately for Tamamo's NP, she doesn't have a demerit, so I think you're right. I think we should debuff Tamamo. We should give her at least like a 1-turn sleep. Let's go back to the OG Janu 1-turn stun days. No? Oh, what's the matter, chat? Don't like it when I apply your logic against you? Lance already has stun, please no. Yeah, that's right. It's trauma, right? Replicates all buffs on the targeted unit. Bro, if they ever do like a copycat unit, we are so fucked. The game is just... Nah, what even is a like damage cap at that point? Somehow I did not screw up the turn order there. Yeah, like I think one of the things that they should probably do is they should probably give Tamamo party-wide defense on her second skill. And I'm not opposed if they make getting back to an NP easier for Tamamo, but it should probably be something very like, I don't know, if they wanted to give her like 10% charge, like per turn for 3 turns or something, that'd be something. I don't think you can make it too long. I don't think you can make it instant. I feel sorry for her. She was the OG tank unit, but there's so many better tanks now. She kind of has no purpose. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The scaling on John's NP is trash. It's never gotten an upgrade. It needs an upgrade. OG John has only had half an NP upgrade because she never received a scaling update. And that's just bullshit. So talking of buffs, when is Dot getting buffed into relevance? Who's Dot? QSH and Janako? Honestly, okay, hot take moment, chat. Janako's really not that good other than her anti-lawful niche. I think that's actually like her best aspect. Because to me, Janako is a unit that if I look at her and I say like, oh, she can tank, she can do all these things, I'm like, yeah, but there's another unit I'm going to take instead of her. Oh, like actual dots. Okay. For dots to be relevant, they probably need like gimmick fights. I hate to say it. USH kind of getting his lunch stolen by Summer Tiamat. Yeah, there's stuff like that too. Give Tamamo a charge, people shut up. Yeah, the problem is because Tamamo also has baked in cooldown reduction on an NP that can functionally be looped, you have to be very careful with how you do that. I don't think you give her straight charge. Buff Dippin' Dots. Just give John her Extella MP where she just dies. Damn, you just hate John that much? Give John 3-turn buff removal resist on her NP and she'll be good again. Okay, that's fine. Give her that. I invuln pierce it. The problem is chat forgets that the reason that solemn defense is meta is because the devs started being assholes and giving every unit in the game and every challenge fight in the game invuln pierce just because they didn't want players hiding behind invuln. And then they gave us solemn defense and everyone was like, cool, we're just going to hide behind that instead. And then after years, the devs said, this is getting annoying. We're going to create solemn defense pierce, even though it shouldn't exist. Illegal Logres Koyan actually being a team comp that can go the long term and function like a Tamamo Arts team is a thing. Tamamo is just so behind. Honestly, hear me out on this. Okay. I'm gonna throw Tamamo fans a bone, even though they never shut up in my chat. Like, this skill, there's nothing wrong with it. It's really strong. I don't think you touch the skill. This skill needs love. Like I said, this skill needs to be party defense. And I think it's good. And then you can maybe add an additional effect. This skill, honestly, fine. It's a spot heal. This is very similar to Merlin's hero creation. Like, it just doesn't have the crit damage on it. And if that's the case, I wouldn't mind if they wanted to like increase this to like 5k. And I'm also going to say this, and Jack can tell me whether or not I'm wrong, right? The overcharge effect here increases the party's gauge. This is fine. Don't touch this. What should be touched is this. This is poop. Even after an NP interlude. I'm sorry. Having NP5 only heal 1k more per NP? That's just trash. So my advice would be basically make this like 5k and then make this like 3k. And yeah, I hate to say it, I don't even think it's that broken if you increase it higher than that. But yeah, Valon's 3k at NP1. That's true. Like I said, I think that's what actually needs attunement on her. I see everybody cry that, like, again, like, oh, she needs more cooldown reduction. She needs more party charge. She needs straight party charge or like targetable charge skills. No, you just want Castoria as Tamamo. Like, those things Tamamo does not need. That will break Tamamo. Because when you get Tamamo rolling with the cooldown reduction, with the charge, with the healing, Tamamo's really good. It's just the issue that I've noticed over the years is that Tamamo's healing can just be overpowered by enemies. And I'm not talking about like, oh, they slipped in a Noble Phantasm and murdered us all. I'm talking like they could just straight up out damage Tamamo's healing, and that's a problem. That's really all she does need. Is that a pool of ducks? What the duck? Okay. Chat. I'm gonna go ahead and end it for tonight. I see Mr. Kuon on. We're gonna go give him some love. And yeah, I mean, again, remember that, like, all this stuff really just boils down to you don't want to make a unit too broken. You want to keep them with the archetype and design that they had. It doesn't mean you can't buff them, though. Yeah, I will not be back tomorrow. Again, like I said, going out another date night with the girlfriend. Saturday I'll be occupied. Sunday I'll be back for D&D. And if not, I'll see you guys Monday. But you guys go give Kuon my love. Again, hope you guys had a good week. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for watching me. Try to get another video out for you guys tomorrow, so pay attention to YouTube. Again, have a good evening.